Good afternoon. Welcome back into Right Side Broadcasting Network. This is RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez, and we begin our broadcast with a quote from President John Adams. "You will never know how much it has cost my generation to preserve your freedom. I hope you will make a good use of it." Again, words from our second president. I'll read it again. "You will never know how much it has cost my generation to preserve your freedom. I hope you will make a good use of it." Of course, referring to 1776 and other years back in the day there from our second president. And as many have agreed online, a good use of our time is getting the Save America Act passed. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. As we know, President Trump has been saying we have to pass the Save America Act, get the U.S. Senate to get on board, get this finished, get it through sooner than later. Meantime, speaking of President Trump, today at 4 o'clock, the president will participate in a Saving College Sports Roundtable in the East Room of the White House. He's had quite the busy day today, a lot of closed press events, but still obviously keeping his mind on various things out there, whether it's the Save America Act, whether it's Operation Epic Fury, and many other news stories that are happening out there in the 24/7 news cycle. So before we really get started for the day, let's go to our first clip of the day. It's a Flashback Friday segment. It's the We the People from the Campaign Trail edition. Let's take a look.
We are a nation where free speech is no longer allowed, where crime is rampant and out of control like never before, and where more people died of COVID in 2021 than in 2020. And we are a nation that is allowing Iran to build a massive nuclear weapon in China to use the trillions of dollars it has taken from us to build a military to rival our own. And just 2 years ago, we had Iran, China, Russia, and North America. And they weren't going to do a thing against us. Not a thing. This might be the greatest rally we've ever had. And perhaps most important, we are a nation that is no longer respected or listened to around the world.
Flashback Friday quickly for you. That's actually segment 1 of the day for the Flashback Friday segments. We have 2 and then part 3 to just, get us through the broadcast. We have a lot of news to talk about, of course. We may be bringing on some live guests as well as we monitor some of the latest news stories that are happening out there. In the meantime, before we dive into all of that, we do know recently, this week, we interviewed the owner of All Family Pharmacy, Michael Kunzler. So in case you missed it, here's that interview. We'll be right back after that. The owner of All Family Pharmacy, Michael Kunzler, joins us once again live here. Michael, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely. Let's look at one of those articles that we've both been talking about out there, the NPR article the headline that reads, ivermectin takes off among cancer patients. Can you talk to us about that? First of all, when you saw that, were you kind of like, well, I mean, ivermectin is one of those powerful medications?
Yeah, absolutely. For ages, we haven't been able to really have these conversations, because our regulators don't like us as a pharmacy talking about off-label use. They want guidance, they want safety, they want effectiveness. I mean, ivermectin won the Nobel Prize for efficacy, decades ago. And so it's unfortunate that they don't even allow us to talk about a drug that's as safe as ivermectin and as effective as ivermectin is and has been, for decades now to come. And millions of people around the world have taken it. It has a very safe profile. It works great with other medications. It actually does a enhancing effect from what we understand when it comes to this type of stuff. So, the one knockout is a blood thinner. You don't want to enhance a blood thinner, and that's for specific reasons. But there are two that are on the market. But because I'm not a physician, they don't want me to talk about that. We'd rather you submit it and have that conversation with our doctors on what's safe for you. But talking about ivermectin in general, use for cancer is tremendous. There are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people currently utilizing this as an off-label treatment around the world. I know this because I've joined a lot of the Facebook groups. I've read about it on social media. I work with one of the number one doctors right now who has generated over 100 protocols for cancer, and that's Dr. William Mackis out of Canada. And he's been a pivotal physician in this fight against cancer and using ivermectin not as a standalone, but in conjunction with your immuno or chemo or radiation. So these are some interesting things, and NPR is now talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. So you see the NPR is talking about it, but obviously we are too here at Right Side Broadcasting Network because, what we've been talking about here when we talk about all family pharmacy is that the National Cancer Institute has launched that early stage lab research to study how it works in the body, including how it may interact with cancer cells. So as we've been telling viewers, it's not a treatment recommendation, it's early stage research, but it does highlight how medications, to your point earlier, that were once pushed to the sidelines are now being studied by these major institutions.
Yeah, and with the NCI jumping in and the NIH, that is a big organization as part of this, a branch that is humongous within our industry. We get a lot of data from the NIH and the NCI when it comes to looking at off-label use medications or, FDA-approved medications, and where we can get strict data from, because they house a lot of data that our pharmacists as well as our physicians utilize for their own research. So they're joining the fight. They want to see what's going on. And the reason they want to see it is because, like I said before, there are thousands, it's probably close to the millions now, and individuals that are interested in looking at ivermectin, mebendazole, and then even the fenbendazole, which, that's the Joe Tippins drug from, I think it was like 8 years ago. He's a famous individual now who was one of the first to use fenbendazole to fight and beat cancer. It wasn't just a standalone with fenbendazole. It was a collection of other immunotherapies, other drugs that are in trials as well. But yeah, it's great to see the national light on it. We've been talking about it. If people have watched this show for over a year now, they've heard us numerous times try to explain certain bits of information because, like I said, our regulators require us not to talk about off-label use when we're on these platforms, when we're on podcasts. It's like they want us to hide it. We're not going to hide it. We're going to try to talk about it, but in a safe and effective manner. And for those who want to try it, we're open to having a conversation, to guiding you in the right direction. That's what they should be more concerned about, is allowing the physicians to guide these individuals. Because if they don't allow the physicians and the pharmacists to guide them, they're going to go on Facebook and they're going to ask some random person across the side of the world for a treatment protocol, and they probably will get hurt by utilizing the treatment protocol because they're probably going to use too high of a dose. They're going to mix it with a medication that might not counteract well with them. Something's going to happen. So why not just put it in the hands of the physicians and the pharmacists like you do with every other drug?
Exactly, and you have that there with all family pharmacy. Licensed physicians review the order, of course, and then if applicable, they will then approve that and send the medication straight to anybody's door that is ordering. Let's talk about ivermectin. There's a word and a number that I haven't used together in a long time, COVID-19. After COVID-19, we saw, hey, ivermectin, man, this is something that crushes that crappy disease. So now it looks like it's something, again, being used by a lot of people. Is that why ivermectin got that extra boost of purchasing because of COVID-19? Or has it, I'm not a doctor either, I don't know. So has ivermectin been that kind of drug that has been something that people have used over decades, but it really highlighted with COVID-19?
Yeah, absolutely. When 2020 hit, 2021 hit, they started doing a lot more research on ivermectin, and they found a lot of this data based on different countries who use ivermectin on a monthly basis because they don't have government entities like we do with the USDA, where they're protecting our meats, they're protecting our beefs. Those countries don't have that. So they have to take anti-parasites because of the quality of meat that they have over there, as well as refrigeration. There's a couple different instances, right? That's where it started. They started seeing a lot of data based on COVID. They introduced it here. People started taking it for COVID. We started our business because we opened our doors to individuals who were looking for ivermectin. We had no idea about it. We were like, yeah, what's wrong with prescribing a drug off label? It's used in 20 to 25% of prescriptions nowadays. There's nothing illegal about it. Let's have a conversation. This is perfectly legal. And so everybody was scared of the regulators. And most of those were those blue state regulators who didn't care about ivermectin and whether it will or will not help somebody. They just cared about striking down license for pharmacists and doctors. It was kind of, sickening to watch. But in Florida, they did not do that. They did not announce that they were going to do that. They were okay with us allowing, because they trust their pharmacists and they trust the physicians within the state to guide their patients in a safe and effective manner, right? And that's how it should be. Because if you don't do it, they're going to go on the black market and they're going to do it. And then they're going to get hurt. So that's the instances. So COVID started everything. And we built a business during COVID because there was so much success with the drug. And now we're starting to see the properties, the anti-cancer properties, mebendazole with anti-tumor properties. I mean, this is data and research that's out there. This doesn't exist because I'm saying it. It's actually out there. And if you do your research, you will find it in places like the NIH, the National Institution of Health, or the NCI, the National Cancer Institution. And these are entities that will provide this information to the everyday people like us. We just have to go out there and find it.
And speaking of getting some answers to questions, if someone has a number of questions and say they want to work with All Family Pharmacy, they want to order even the emergency kits you have and just kind of get on a plan with you guys,
consultation with the physician. Those are the best secure ways for you to have a conversation with ourselves as well as our staff.
Awesome to see that. And then finally, the emergency kits. Can you go over some of those kits out there? I know you have the flu kit, but is there a COVID kit, or can you talk to us about all the ones you have? I know you have first aid, all of these kits out there.
Yeah, so we're not allowed to have a COVID kit. Right. We've had this conversation numerous times. They didn't even like the fact that we had a flu kit. But the flu is the real thing. The symptoms are all the same. Most people get, 50 to 60, sometimes even more percentage of the symptoms that the flu has. And it's not fun. people are knocked out for 5 to 10 days, and that's not fun. So, putting together that flu kit, I really enjoyed because I knew that it would give people the ability to get out of bed within a day or so. And it would help them daily activities fighting those symptoms. But the fact that the regulators don't even want us to have any of that stuff anymore is, it kind of shows you who they are and what they're trying to do. And the fact that if we were even allowed to have a COVID-19 kit, it just shows you, it just proves to you, because we would, obviously the number one drug would probably be ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and we'd have some rescue inhalers, some nebulizers, stuff for, inflammation or inflammation of the lungs, cough and sore throat, cough syrup, stuff like that. So we would have all that together if we could. So what we could do, essentially going around it, is creating a custom kit over the phone, speaking to one of our representatives who will give you the key medications to request from the doctor prior to placing your order, and then kind of just creating a custom kit based on, what your needs are. And if it's COVID-19, we can do that. We know the drugs, we know it helps, we know it works. Let us customly do it. And sometimes it ends up being a lot cheaper. A lot of our competitors put 9 antibiotics in a kit, just tell you to buy it for $300. What are 9 antibiotics going to do for you? It's probably not that much. Yeah.
That's pretty wild. I totally forgot about the customization kits that you guys have. I know about the flu kit and emergency kits, first aid, but that is pretty cool that you guys can just, talk on the phone with someone and get the specific things taken care of. And then once approved with that doctor, get that shipped to the door. So Michael Kunzler, thank you so much for joining us, the owner of All Family Pharmacy. Again, it's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. And I'm sure, I know there's an RSBN 10 promo code out there for 10% off. You guys, with the President's Day sale, I mean, wasn't it, I know it's not now the 47% off, but you guys always have these different good sales for people too, to help save some money, don't you?
Yeah, we try to be creative with our sales, but at the same time, we try to make them so that they can help individuals all around America, whether their income is low or their income is high, save money, stock up on medications, and just be prepared. Ultimately, it's about being prepared. And every individual in America should be prepared. We're stepping into, seasonal allergies, travel season, it's spring break. We have different medications for that. We have allergy medications. So every 3 months, we step into a new season. It's a new time to bulk up on different medications that you may or may not need based on your lifestyle. But, you can hear it in my mouth and my nose. I'm starting to get my allergies. It's March. It's Florida. Things are starting to come out of the ground again. So this is generally when I get sick, and that's when I start to supply myself with my own medications.
All Family Pharmacy owner Michael Kunzler, thanks again for joining us from the Sunshine State in Florida. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, a great interview there in case you missed it from earlier in the week, as we are live at 2:47 Friday, March 6th. A lot to get to here on Right Side. Stories we're monitoring within that 24/7 news cycle. Of course, Operation Epic Fury enters day 7. We'll dive into more details in just a minute. And in order to save America, we have to pass that Save America Act. So we'll dive into the latest with that story as well. Another story that we're tracking, the Department of Justice has released nearly 50,000 more files connected to Jeffrey Epstein. So we'll monitor any developments in that story. Meantime, tomorrow in Florida, President Trump will attend the Shield of Americans Summit tomorrow as the commander-in-chief hosts 12 leaders of Latin American countries. Soon, we will also know that the president will attend the dignified transfer services this weekend of the 6 American patriots who gave the ultimate sacrifice during Operation Epic Fury. As for a date and time on that, we'll keep you posted for that dignified transfer service, usually done and conducted at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland. Meantime, let's go to clip 3. Let's take a closer look at day 7 of Operation Fury.
But Mr. Secretary, first, thank you very much for your leadership and support and the very clear vision and objectives that you've given us to allow us to use overwhelming force against the Iranian terrorist regime. And thanks to all of you for attending today, and welcome to Tampa. We are now starting our 6th day of a historic mission to eliminate Iran's ability to threaten Americans. We are, if I could channel my inner Navy officer, we are at full speed ahead in executing orders given by leadership in Washington. The President and Secretary Hegseth have been crystal clear in their expectations, and we are at a high level of execution. As described by the Secretary and earlier this week by me, U.S. combat power is building as Iranian combat power declines. Our air dominance allows us to hit Iran's center of gravity with overwhelming power and reach. A couple of examples. In just the last 72 hours, America's bomber force has struck nearly 200 targets deep inside of Iran, including around Tehran. And in just the last hour, U.S. B-2 bombers dropped dozens of 2,000-pound penetrator bombs targeting deeply buried ballistic missile launchers. Notably, we have also struck Iran's equivalent of Space Command, which degrades their ability to threaten Americans. Then, if I just look back over the last 24 hours of the operation compared to where we were at its start, ballistic missile attacks have decreased by 90% since day one. Drone attacks have decreased by 83% since day one. Having said this, we remain vigilant. Our strikes against the Iranian Navy have intensified. You may have heard the President say just a little while ago that we have sunk or destroyed 24 ships. That was true at the moment. We're now up over 30 ships. And in just the last few hours, we hit an Iranian drone carrier ship, roughly the size of a World War II aircraft carrier, and as we speak, it's on fire. The President gave us another task, to raise or level Iran's ballistic missile industrial base. So we're not just hitting what they have, we're destroying their ability to rebuild. And so as we transition to the next phase of this operation, we will systemically dismantle Iran's missile production capability for the future, and that's absolutely in progress. This is going to take some time, but our forces are well supplied, as the Secretary said, and we are absolutely ready to prosecute this mission decisively. Our combined joint forces have relentlessly destroyed Iran's air defenses over the past few days, and they've continued hunting for more systems to kill. Our air defenders are operating at the very top of their game. I couldn't be prouder, shoulder to shoulder with our partners in the region in many cases, providing the most integrated air defense network in Middle East history. We are fighting to win. Through combined U.S. and Israeli combat power, we will continue decimating Iran's ability to project power outside its borders. And if I can just conclude by saying a strong salute to the brave men and women who are out on the pointy edge of this, really doing exceptional work. I just couldn't be prouder, and I know the American.
Wake up, Daddy's home.
Welcome home, son.
Strength and honor. Strength and honor.
What will you do without freedom?
Mavericks inbound.
You can't conceive of what I'm capable of.
Finishing this fight.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
I am the danger.
Time to find out.
Maximum effort.
Here it comes. Now end this.
Flawless victory.
As you see there, just airing the various videos that we're seeing from the White House. On top of that, Central Command with an update on Operation Epic Fury. This is day 7. Of course, a lot of people saying, okay, if it's surgical strikes and we get out of there, great. If it's a thing where we have boots on the ground and it's this several year type of thing, which we've seen before, we don't want that, of course. And I don't think that's what the administration is going to be doing, but we'll see. We have to monitor everything. We're just seeing it how it is, calling it like it is here at the network, but also looking forward to seeing a number of stories come to fruition, including the passage of that Save America Act. We'll dive into that in just a second. Let's go back to a number of our great sponsors here at Right Side. Also, if you'd like to donate to the network, all you have to do is go to rsbnetwork.com/donate as the company continues to grow and expand here at the network. Of course, dollars and cents needed to do that. So just go to rsbnetwork.com/donate. As you're about to see in a little bit, we're going to have a little bit of reminiscing on this Flashback Friday as well. I mean, all about we the people, right? All about all of us out there and chanting USA at various events and rallies. And so we put together a few videos for you just for a little bit of a Flashback Friday. But that is not to say, hey, let's look at that and not understand what's going on in our world as well. This is just kind of a smorgasbord of sorts for today's broadcast on this Friday, March 6th. Again, if you're just joining us, obviously we've talked about a lot of stories that are happening in that 24/7 news cycle, and we'll continue to do that. That's kind of our job, so glad to do it. All right, let's go to our next sponsor here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. You see right there, mypillow.com/RSBN. Mike Lindell, of course, the owner of that great company, running for governor in Minnesota. Talk about somebody that went from rock bottom and overcame all of that through Jesus Christ of Nazareth. How powerful, how awesome was that? And then on top of that, he's able to have a great company like this, MyPillow, and do great things with election security and integrity. So anyway, what you can do is you can support Mike Lindell's great company there, mypillow.com/RSBN. Use that RSBN promo code, and as you see there, free shipping as well. Always good to have free shipping. Always good to have some MyPillow products. If you watched yesterday, I had the Giza Dream Sheets, a whole pack of it right here. Well, that was thanks again to my great in-laws, great family out there that sent that to my wife and I. So nice to see some gifts from MyPillow, and you can get one too as well on this Friday if you'd like. mypillow.com/RSBN. It's March 6th. It's about 3 o'clock. We're getting close to the top of the hour. Here's the latest on the Save America Act. First, again, a quote from our second president, John Adams. "You will never know how much it has cost my generation to preserve your freedom. I hope you will make good use of it." That was the second president, John Adams, saying that. So a good use of our freedom here would be passing something like the Save America Act. There's other things we can do as well to be using our time wisely, but we see that the Save America Act is something that President Trump's been talking about a lot, and a lot of people out there, whether on the right side of the aisle, left side of the aisle, upside down aisle, whatever aisle, people are saying this is something that is common sense and should be done. This is the latest we're tracking for the Save America Act. It has been received in the Senate, of course, but has not been voted on or passed. Senate Majority Leader John Thune out of South Dakota has indicated the Senate would take it up for a vote, quote unquote, very soon or this week. That's per reports in late February and early this month, but no vote has occurred as of the most recent updates. Republicans hold that majority in the Senate and have secured at least a 50 to 51 vote threshold there, 51 votes in support. Also, including Senator Susan Collins backing and pushing it to 51, including the vice president's tiebreaker potential. However, the Democrats are expected to filibuster, requiring 60 votes to invoke cloture and advance the bill. So Thune, the senator, of course, out of South Dakota, said Republicans are not even close to that 60 votes needed to overcome a filibuster, and there is no indication of eliminating or bypassing the filibuster rule. But that's not where the story is going to end, at least if it's on our watch here at Right Side and conservative media and in We the People. We can contact our senators. And yesterday I made some calls to Senator John Thune's office. I've not heard back on any statement or any interview. First of all, we should nuke that filibuster and get this passed. This is something that is an easy title. It's called Save America. So pass the Save America Act. Why wouldn't you want to do that? Meantime, as we look closer at Operation Epic Fury, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth saying the following on X. We don't have a graphic here for you, so I'm going to read this to you. Hegseth said, "Our nation mourns the loss of 6 extraordinary American heroes. These brave warriors gave everything in service to our country supporting Operation Epic Fury. They are Major Jeffrey R. O'Brien, Captain Cody A. Kirk, Chief Warrant Officer III Robert M. Marzin, Sergeant First Class Nicole M. Armour, Sergeant First Class Noah Altesians, and Sergeant Declan J. Cody." So 6 of our fallen patriots will return, of course, for that dignified transfer ceremony sometime here in the future. We'll let you know when that happens. Also, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, saying our service members bear a responsibility and a duty most civilians will never come close to understanding. They know that the day might come when they are asked to risk their life in defense of their country. As Secretary of War, I stand with an unbreakable spirit to honor their memory and the resolve they embodied. To their families, loved ones, and fellow warfighters, we lift you up in prayer and pledge our unwavering support. That's from the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, saying their deaths will not be in vain. We will honor them with action. We will hunt down the Iranian radicals responsible, dismantle their military capabilities, and ensure that justice is swift and absolute. We stand stronger than ever, ready to avenge these fallen heroes and crush the threats in Iran that dare to challenge us. America does not yield. We advance, we prevail, and this will defend. God bless our warfighters, their families, and the United States of America. Again, that quote from the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, read that from X that was posted within the past several hours here as we have read that on Right Side Broadcasting Network. We're about 58 minutes or so from seeing the president, but we have a number of elements to get to here on the network, including, let's go to the Flashback Friday once again. This is part 2 from the campaign trail. This is clip number 4. Again, if you're just joining us now, we started out the broadcast with one of these clips kind of just edited together of various times being on the Media Riser and seeing all of us out there together as President Trump was coming out to speak and everyone chanting USA, that kind of thing. So let's go to a little bit more of a Flashback Friday on this Friday, March 6th. And of course, we have a lot of news to get to as well, but check this out.
This morning when she said that President Trump is the real deal, and he also said he's saving America and to save the world.
He's saving the world. My God, I mean, he is tough. He doesn't hold anything back, and I like that about him. He's not afraid. He's like a lion. He is the lion. He roars, and that just makes people like, oh, shoot, let me step into my power. Oh, my God, you know? So I love that about him.
So, Mr. Secretary, first, thank you very much for your leadership and support in the very clear vision.
And I remember that interview like it was yesterday there in Council Bluffs, Iowa, right on the border of Nebraska. I've never been to Nebraska. Well, actually, I was in Nebraska one time driving to Colorado. Anyway, but there was obviously checked out Omaha as well on that trip. But specifically, you know, back in Iowa, of course, the many towns that we crisscrossed throughout that state for the campaign season, So just a little bit of reminiscing today. Of course, as we focus in on various stories that are happening out there in the 24/7 news cycle, we're going to get to some more Flashback Friday segments because you know what? It's Friday, it's March, it's getting warmer, hopefully in your neck of the woods. But again, none of these stories, guys, none of the, if you want to call it a little bit of fluff or lighter pieces, have nothing to do with the fact that we're not going to still cover very serious stories that are happening out there, including passing the Save America Act, Operation Epic Fury Day 7, the DOJ releasing nearly 50,000 Epstein files today. So there's a lot going on, but I thought today, you know what, let's just look at some of these great videos from the past and kind of reminisce and see us again, right? We the people, chanting USA at various Trump events that we covered, and wonderful to see some of that. So we're going to get back into it in just a second, but before we do, let's go to All Family Pharmacy. Ivermectin back in the headlines. The National Cancer Institute has actually launched early-stage lab research to study how it works in the body, including how it may interact with cancer cells. Now, this isn't a treatment recommendation. It's actually early-stage research, but we're told from All Family Pharmacy it does highlight how medications that were once pushed to the sidelines are now being studied by major institutions. And for many Americans, that raises an important question about access. So if you've been looking for a reliable place to get medications like ivermectin or antibiotics, mebendazole, hydroxychloroquine, NAD+, and other prescriptions, All Family Pharmacy makes the process simple. You just go online, you complete a short medical form, and a licensed physician will review your request and prescribes if appropriate. So they believe Americans should be able to be informed and have informed decisions with their doctors, and they help get this made possible. Just go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Again, it's RSBN is that after the slash part there, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN for that 10% off. Use the RSBN 10 promo code. Of course, great to get a percentage off of these products with All Family Pharmacy. Let's also go to one more sponsor as we continue on our live broadcast. We see Birch Gold Group right there. Think about this. In 2006, $20,000 equaled roughly 33 ounces of gold at spot price. But at today's prices, so those 33 ounces would be worth about $165,000. So smart Americans everywhere are diversifying a portion of their savings into precious metals. So a portion of their savings into these precious metals with Birch Gold Group. And that's why you might want to consider buying gold from our friends at Birch Gold Group. For thousands of years, gold has been a store of wealth, and today it's a crucial part of any balanced financial strategy. Even better, Birch Gold can help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered retirement account in gold. So just text Trump to the number you see on your screen there, 989898, to receive that free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, just useful information. They have that A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers. So just let Birch Gold help you diversify with gold. Now, you can definitely get some peace of mind through that as well when it comes to the financial markets out there. Text Trump to 989898. Again, that's Trump to 989898. All right, so if you enjoyed a little bit of that Flashback Friday, let's just go with the third part. I have 3 Flashback Friday videos to go to, so let's go to that third one, clip number 5 right now. So all of those photos or videos in these things that we're showing you here, all done via smartphone. You know, you just get the video perspectives, you edit it together, you throw some music on that is via Apple and allowed to be aired and that kind of thing. But you know, it kind of tells a picture, right? Without me blabbing all the time. It's just kind of the moments, right? We remember all the moments and we won't forget them. And there's a lot to be done moving forward. Before we get to our next interview, I believe there are a couple sponsors. Is that right, Director? Okay, let's go to Rumble Wallet right now. You may have seen the conversations happening online lately. Censorship is back and it's happening everywhere. Platforms are controlling narratives and pushing the stuff they want us to see. So we can fight back in that information and financial arena because Rumble is the only company that has stood the test of time and deserves our support. On one side, Rumble is challenging big tech censorship, but on the other side, they have introduced something that will give us protection from the big banks shutting us off. So banks can cancel our accounts and freeze our cards. So that's why Rumble has launched Rumble Wallet. It's a wallet that no one can cancel and a wallet that supporters can use to instantly tip creators like us and others without the middleman taking the cuts. With one Rumble Wallet, you can control your money, not a bank, not a government, not a tech company, not even Rumble can touch it. And it's yours and yours to protect your future and your family. You can buy and save digital assets like Bitcoin and Tether Gold in one place. So a lot of great information there that you can get by going to Rumble Wallet on your Google Play Store, on your App Store if you have the iPhone, or just type in wallet.rumble.com. You can also donate to Right Side through that means as well. So you can step away from the big banks for good and go to wallet.rumble.com. Let's go to one more sponsor before we get to some more of the news of the day and some videos out there. You see covepure.com/RSBN. As you guys have heard, maybe this week, we're past all of the new year, new me stuff. This is part of the year where we either forget about all of that or we make it easy enough that we actually follow through. And that's where Cove Pure comes in because most people tend to go overboard buying new supplements and trying a new diet or workout, but they completely ignore the most important basic thing, water. Even mild dehydration impacts energy, focus, and metabolism. And when you think about all of the garbage that's in our water, you're starting behind the curve before you even begin. So Cove Pure changes the whole thing immediately. They have this clear wave technology. It's certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants, pretty much anything that isn't water, PFAs, microplastics, pharmaceutical residue, fluoride, it all gets removed. It's the purest water you can get. And guess what? No aftertaste. So if you like tap water, this is not for you. I don't think there are many people that like tap water out there, but those that do, okay, that's fine. It's a free country, you know, but holy smokes, gross. But go to covepure.com/RSBN. Get all that stuff out of the water so it tastes better, it's pure, no aftertaste, no junk in the water, and get that $250 off for a limited time. So just go to covepure.com/RSBN. Great sponsor here at Right Side. I love that sponsor. I love all of them. They're all good. Anyway, awaiting this college athletics roundtable with the president. You're going to see that at the top of the hour at 4 o'clock in case you missed it, however. Let's shift back into some more news of the day. We caught up with Assad Khan earlier this week. He's a retired lieutenant colonel in the Marines who spoke with us about Operation Epic Fury. Here's that interview. Joining us now is United States Marine retired Lieutenant Colonel Assad Khan, author of the book Betrayal of Command. First, sir, thank you so much for your service to our nation. Can you tell us about your military service, your book, and your reaction to Operation Epic Fury?
Sure. Thank you for having me. Obviously I served in the Marine Corps. I commanded an infantry battalion in Afghanistan, and then I retired. And I'm also a foreign area officer for the Middle East, and I happen to be in the Middle East. And I wrote about my experiences in the book Betrayal of Command. It's a pretty good read. I think most of your viewers will probably enjoy it.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of traction on Amazon and other places as well for that book. Can you talk to us about specifically what years you served? I know it was in Afghanistan, correct? And tell us what it was like to serve in our United States military as a lieutenant colonel, and then maybe juxtapose that to what it's like out there, what you're seeing out there today with the leadership of Pete Hegseth.
Yeah, so I loved it. I mean, I served from 1985 to 2005. And, I had 2 tours actually in Afghanistan. I was there in 2001 in the early days. And then I came back, trained up an infantry battalion, took them back to Afghanistan. We fought in the Oruzgan province and Zabul province as high as 10,000 feet. with about 1,000 submarines and 200 Afghan militia fighters. And, the Marines did fantastic. Very proud of them to this day. And the book really talks about my experiences. If I juxtapose that, to what's going on now, obviously I miss the Marine Corps. I mean, I love it too. I've got, very passionate about it. And, and there's a lot going on in our military. Some of the changes that I've seen in the military so far are fantastic. I think they're right on. The military should be based on meritocracy. And the reason being is when you go to combat, the enemy is unpredictable, and combat in itself is unpredictable, and war is uncontrollable. So you need the best and the most highly trained people in combat to serve on either side of you. And that's the most important thing. I took 1,200 Marines into combat. Unfortunately, I brought back 1199, and that still bothers me to this day. And my book sort of talks about that as well. So it's important that our military is highly trained, and it's important that they're led by the best possible leadership that we can give our young troops. And it's important that we have accountability. And since we're talking about it, what happened on 26th August 2021 in Afghanistan, to this day we haven't had accountability. Now think about that. It took us 4 years to mobilize the military, go to Europe and the Pacific, defeat the Germans and the Japanese. In 4 years we did that. It's been 4.5 years and we haven't had accountability. So accountability is very important, especially for the senior leadership in the military.
Exactly. So, sir, then on top of that, I saw some videos online of you out there, Lieutenant Colonel Assad Genghis Khan out there speaking to a number of Marines and others. What would you say to those that could be possibly watching right now, or just families that have loved ones overseas? What would you say to a warfighter at this moment?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing right now, you got to focus on what the task at hand. That's the bottom line. The nation's at war, and you need to make sure that you take care of the Marine, soldier, sailor, Coast Guardsman on your left and right. That's your number one responsibility right now. Then after that, for the families, hey, they need 100% support. My family supported me when I was in combat. My son was also a Marine. He also went to combat. And it's important that the parents and the families and the loved ones and the wives and the sons and daughters support your soldier, sailor, Marine when they go off to combat. And it's very tragic that we lose people. It's going to happen, and it's very unfortunate. It still bothers me to this day that I lost Corporal Ron Payne. But that's what we signed up for, to do the nation's hard work. And the important thing is that we have the best training out there. We've got the best troops. We've got the best training, and we've got the best equipment out there. And it's important to be well trained before you go overseas to do the nation's bidding.
And then on top of that, we've been monitoring United States Central Command videos here at Right Side. We've been tossing to a number of those videos that they've been posting. Have you been tracking those videos? What's your reaction to see an Iranian mobile launcher thinking it's going to do some damage, and then our military just destroys it? And then on top of that, how about the submarine recently taking out, one of the Iranian ships there as well?
Yeah, it's a good feeling. I mean, that's what we train for, right? I mean, but at the end of the day, you can never underestimate the enemy, right? And Iran has been preparing for this conflict for decades, for minimum 4 decades. And I would not underestimate them by any means. But by the same token, this has just begun. We don't know how long it's going to last. I anticipate right now it's going to last about 2 weeks more. And the reason being is from first day when they're firing the missiles, they've gone down about 80% in terms of how many missiles they're launching. And just in one day, they've gone down 23%. But I do have a concern. And my concern is if we push them far enough, this regime, that they may cross the nuclear threshold, then what? The rules of the game change. So that's something we need to think at the back of their mind. They enrich their uranium to about 60%. I'm no expert on nuclear physics and all that stuff, but I have stayed in a Holiday Inn Express, but we got to be careful here because what I'm told in my research, it's basically takes about a week to 10 days to get up to the 90% threshold for a nuclear weapon. So that's dangerous. And what do we do if they cross that threshold? What's the game plan? What's the end state? So those are some of the big concerns that I have. The problem that we're having right now is, I heard Admiral Cooper, and we basically attacked about 4,000, roughly about 4,000 targets over the last 5 days, right? And with great success, what you're talking about, the launchers and all that. But sooner or later, you're going to run out of targets. And if you can't acquire targets through their electronic signature or their IR signature, then what do? And you can't keep reattacking the same target because that's a waste of resources and logistics, because all this stuff costs a lot of money. So at that point, you got to get boots on the ground. You got to get those special operations forces on the ground to acquire the targets, verify the targets, to laze them, and get ordnance on them from our aircraft. Now, it seems to me that this administration and Hegseth has a plan, because we're evidently arming the Kurds in Western Iran. Now, and just like we did in Afghanistan, and I was there when this happened, when we started arming the Afghans, the warlords and the militias, the Northern Alliance, and then we embedded, the CIA paramilitary amongst them, including the special forces, if you remember, the horse soldiers and whatnot. So, something similar may happen with the Kurds, but here's the warning. We got sucked into a 20-year war in Afghanistan, and we certainly don't want to get sucked into that. So that's one part. The second part is the Kurds have their own aspirations. You've got Turkish Kurds, you've got Iraqi Kurds, you've got Iranian Kurds, and they want Kurdistan. So this is going to really play, it's going to play out at the back end. And, we really got to think through this. And if the Kurds end up getting their Kurdistan, that's going to fragment Iran. It's going to fragment Iraq, and Turkey's not going to be happy because they're going to end up losing some territory. So we may end up in a bigger mess down the road. So we really got to think this stuff through at the end of the day. Short-term gains could be long-term catastrophic strategic problems for us.
So we'll see. We're monitoring what happens there. But last question, sir, 30,000-foot view. It seems that under the leadership of Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, there's a new competency in the military. The cuffs are off. He's able to freely use our military firepower. And then what we saw in Venezuela, a quick surgical strike and out, Maduro gone. This is probably the same goal, what we're seeing here in Iran. Finally, your thoughts about the leadership of Pete Hegseth.
Well, I think Hegseth's doing a pretty damn good job, quite frankly. I mean, I'll be honest with you. When his name first came up, and I'm thinking, National Guard major, you got to be kidding me. He wrote a couple of books. He's on Fox and Friends or whatever on TV. But what I like about him, he's making decisions and he's making change happen. And you could say that his predecessors were so qualified, but they didn't do the things that needed to be done. So Hegseth is sharpening the sword. I love what he's done with meritocracy in our military. Military's got to be based on meritocracy, because I want to go into combat with the best person on my left and right. I don't want to go with the person that just, got something handed to him, some rank or whatever. So I think Hegseth is right on the money. He's really got to make sure that we continue to raise our standards, and I really applaud him for what he's done. I'm a huge fan of Pete Hegseth right now, believe it or not.
Thank you, sir. United States Marine retired Lieutenant Colonel Assad Genghis Khan. Thank you for your service to our country and your insight. Semper Fi, sir.
Thank you. Semper Fi.
All right, so obviously bringing on a lot of guests this week. In case you missed it, that was one interview right there. But, it's great to be able to interview people from all walks of life, including out of China. Xi Van Fleet has joined our broadcast before. She escaped communist China and speaking about freedom and all of that here on the network. So it's interesting to see all of the different guests that we can get here at the network, including several congressmen. And next week, of course, and congresswomen as well, next week we'll be interviewing Senator Tommy Tuberville and others as we continue to interview a lot of people about what's going on out there in our country, around the world. And let's just tell it how it is real quick on that angle. When we cover certain stories or give time to certain stories, it's mostly because those are the stories that are happening now. There are a lot of things that we're tracking here at the network. As I've mentioned earlier about the SAVE Act, I mean, the Save America Act is one of the big ones as well. So we're just really working towards whatever can bring us freedom in this country. I'm a fan. And when I say that, I mean by means of voting, by means of speaking out, by means of prayer, by means of hard work, by means of passing the Save America Act, by means of accountability and transparency and all the things, right? So what can be done for our country to remain free? That's what I'm into. I think that's what a lot of you are into that are watching here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. All right, before we get back into some more about Operation Epic Fury and the Save America Act, some of the stories that we're tracking here, and yes, I'm going to play one more part one of the Flashback Friday segment that we started the broadcast with in just a minute. Let's still go to some of our sponsors before we do all of that. Let's go to angelpaste.com out of Spring, Texas. Of course, great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and you'll see at the bottom of your screen, 10% off. Just use the RSBN promo code at checkout. So give it a shot. All you got to do is try the Miracle Cream right there. That's the flagship product, but there's a lot of different products on angelpaste.com out of Spring, Texas. Longtime sponsor here at Right Side. Great sponsor, great people there at Angel Paste in Texas. Let's move on to All Family Pharmacy as well. Ivermectin is back in the headlines, as some of you may know. The National Cancer Institute has actually launched this early stage lab research to study how it works in the body, including how it may interact with cancer cells. So it's not a treatment recommendation, really. It's early stage research, but All Family Pharmacy says it does highlight how medications that were once pushed to the sidelines are now being studied by major institutions. So for many Americans, that raises an important question about access. So if you've been looking for a reliable place to get medications like ivermectin or mebendazole or hydroxychloroquine or other prescriptions, you can get that through All Family Pharmacy. You can go online, complete a short medical form, and a licensed physician reviews your request and prescribes if appropriate. They believe Americans should be able to make informed decisions with their doctors, and they help make that possible. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Again, that's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Use that 10% code for the RSBN 10 discount as it's approaching the bottom of the hour here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. In just a minute, we're going to go to that Flashback Friday, but also in about 33 minutes or so, we'll be seeing President Trump there live at the White House for this Saving College Sports Roundtable that'll happen. We'll see if there's a Q&A with the reporters after that. I believe this one, I think today, I would say yes, that would happen today. That's just a guess, but been covering these kind of events for quite some time now, and I've worked in the industry for more than 2 decades, so I think he'll be taking questions today on this Friday. Then he'll be flying down to Florida because he'll be going through a number of events there, at least one event with 12 Latin American leaders. That'll be tomorrow. Have no idea on the time yet. The president's schedule has not been released for tomorrow, but of course we'll get that here at Right Side in the near future, and we'll share it with you. All right, let's go to a commercial break. We'll be right back here on Right Side.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Broadcasting Network. Thanks so much for live streaming in as we're approaching that bottom of the hour here on this Friday, March 6th. A shout out to everybody on Truth Social out there. Thanks so much for following Right Side Broadcasting Network. Also, if you'd like to follow me on there, it's at Matthew Alvarez. Robert McNeely is on there as well. So give us all a follow if you'd like as we continue to cover the news of the day and, a lot of the political events, of course, live out there like we are about to do in about 30 minutes from now. Before we get to one of our next live guests, I was talking about covering the news for, more than 20 years and all that. And I posted this on X and on Truth Social today. And I just said, quote, I really think the 24/7 news cycle will remain, if I can speak, it would help. I really think the 24/7 news cycle will remain in high gear until the King of Kings, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, returns to earth, whenever that day is. There are no more slow news days. Back in the day, working in, various markets around the country, if we'd be doing a story that was a little bit of a lighter story, the people would say to us, what, is it a slow news day? We'd laugh and be like, yeah, I guess, which is actually a good thing, we'd say. It's good that it's a slow news day. Then that means there's not these crazy crimes and stuff going on and bad weather and all that. But anyway, the point is, I really think that this 24/7 news cycle ain't going to quit in the sense of the high gear of it. It used to be where maybe a Tuesday in summer, maybe this summer, it's warm, it's hot wherever you are, and it's a random Tuesday, it's 4 o'clock, But the news is just going to keep on keeping on in that high gear. It's pretty wild to see the amount of things that are happening in our country, around the world. And, at the end of the day, all of it, at least in this country, how we cover it, how I like to cover it, is that perspective of what's going to help the freedom happen. What's going to keep the freedom going on in our country, right? So that's really, it's common sense stuff, so whatever. All right, it's 3:31. Did you say, Director, we have a sponsor? Okay, cool. Let's go to our live interview right now. We have Kate Monroe joining us live right now on the West Coast. Speaking of warm weather out there in California, she's a CEO of VetCom and retired Special Intelligence Officer with the United States Marines. Kate Monroe, thanks again for joining us, Kate.
Happy to be on with you, as usual.
Definitely. All right, so let's talk about Operation Epic Fury. We're into day 7. People out there saying, oh, as long as there's no, troops on the ground there and it's not too long of a thing, we get out of there quick, then we're good. Or maybe it takes a while for it to be done. So just what are your thoughts about that, especially being former military?
Well, being former military, I'm glad to see right now that there are not boots on the ground. Technology in warfare has definitely helped us keep more men and women alive on this side of the dirt. That's why there's more technology jobs that are going to be coming out of this generation. A lot of people got out and they were mechanics and other things, but people are getting out now in cybersecurity and all these other things. So I'm happy to see that. But I do think we did a lot of the damage really early on. We took out the Ayatollah, we took out their air defense, we've been sinking their ships. So I think a lot of the front-loaded damage was done very swiftly. And now the beatings will continue until morale improves, until they bend the knee and allow the thing to be done. I think at this point, it's going to continue until they say, okay, fine, you won. They haven't been beaten down quite far enough to relinquish any idea of future control. So I think when that happens, you'll see this wrap up pretty quickly.
I was seeing some reports about the war would end or these surgical strikes would end once they would surrender. I haven't verified that, independently here at Right Side, but if that's true, what if there's no one left to even surrender? That's the kind of situation we have. Am I right?
Oh, yeah. The dominoes are definitely falling. It seems as though every time we try to pull somebody into a room to see if they're going to be the new leader of the terror world, they get bombed, and that's what, we need to keep the pressure on, the boot on the face or on the neck until they finally bend the knee. We need to make sure that I have been saying that there's 3 buckets of people in most Middle Eastern countries, certainly in somewhere like Iran. There's just like we have the far left and the far right. There's the people totally in line with that regime because ideologically they don't know anything better. Then there's the people all the way on the other side who are like, hey, we don't like this at all, and we've been trying to break this curse for generations. And then there's the people in the middle that have Stockholm syndrome, that think that the other side is right. But it's not going to take very long for them to realize, like, oh my gosh, freedom is in sight. So I think you got to find a person who can appeal to those 2/3, to the people that have the Stockholm syndrome and the people that are excited that they're free. And that leader could take over and take charge. And then those 2/3 could force the bending of the knee of that completely left-leaning crazy that they have over there.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to watch. Have you been monitoring the United States Central Command videos, the White House videos, Rapid Response 47, seeing all of this access. I mean, first of all, the information age that we are in, of course, it's, you know, pretty much completed. We have all the information we need in a second. What are your thoughts about all of the videos that you're getting access to? And on top of that, though, you're very busy out there in California working on behalf of the people of California as well. So how do you handle all of what's going on, especially because you've been, former Marine?
Yeah. Well, I think we have to be careful not to get so desensitized. You know, previous to me coming on, you were talking about this 24-hour news cycle. And I think, we have the thing with Iran going on. We had the Epstein files. We had open border and on and on and on and on. And it's like, where do you even start to be upset or for or against something, because you're just getting inundated? I try to be compartmentalized in the way that I bucketize the things I'm thinking about. You know, right now, Iran's a really big deal, but it's not going to be a big deal here in another couple weeks. You know, and it's sad. That's the way the news cycle goes. But just because something falls out of the news cycle doesn't mean it didn't still continue. You know, we're still looking for Savannah Guthrie's mom. We're still doing the Epstein stuff. You just don't hear about it. You don't hear about Monroe anymore. That's old news, apparently. So for me, I try to just be a little more realistic with it and say, hey, I'm a mom. I have a big company to run. I have veterans to serve. And I try to focus 80% of my time on that. And the 20% of time I have left, I devote a little bit to keeping up on the news. But, not all the news is really the news, as you know.
Exactly. It's so true. And so
Very wag the dog.
No, exactly. I'm so glad you're saying that, because that's what there are still people out there that are learning that lesson right this second with what you just said, which is pretty wild. To know that just because, these so-called big networks aren't covering certain things, that doesn't mean that they can push their narrative and their news cycle of what they think's so-called important, because it's mostly false narratives anyway. I mean, how many people really, really are talking about things like the Save America Act as well? Like, this is something that still should be in the forefront with the other stories you're talking about, including Operation Epic Fury. But let's talk about the Save America Act while we're on that topic. I mean, we've talked about it before, and it's hard to really come up with something new, to be honest, because it's common sense, isn't it, that act?
Yeah, I mean, okay, I'll put a pin in this act for a second. Much of what the Trump administration has come up with, act after act after act, everything that they are trying to do is for the good of the American people, for our sovereignty, for our prosperity, for our safety. And only one side of the aisle is against it. And not because they're against it. They're just against what the other side is against. It's politicking. It's just the media, the politicians, like everyone is just orchestrating this disgusting movie like a train wreck for everybody to watch. I mean, they just had a vote on, is Iran a terror organization, like the biggest one? And 53 people on the left managed to say they weren't. Like, you can't say 2 + 2 is 4. It's 5 or it's 3. It's just not. And I think people are in a season where they want to hear the truth. This next generation behind us, they want the truth. They're sick and tired. That's why I don't watch the news anymore, right? The SAVE Act, yes, it's great. It's not going to get any airtime. Finding kids, missing kids, hundreds and thousands of them, that doesn't get any airtime. So anything that would be good is not going to get heard about. Anything that doesn't meet the agenda isn't going to get heard about.
Within the mainstream media perspective.
Correct.
But I believe in true conservative media like Right Side and other conservative networks, people like yourself out there, citizen journalists, podcasters. And, it's interesting, again, with social media and live stream broadcasts, the views, the numbers are bigger when it comes to X, Truth Social, Rumble, YouTube, all the things, the apps, I mean, it's a new day. That's why it's called the new media, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think about when I first started being on the news. I was on local news first, and I had no idea the reach. I didn't know what their reach was. I would get asked to come and commentate on something, and then I found out 500 to 1,000 people were watching me, and I'm like, why would I get up at 6 a.m. to go do the local news when I can sit at my makeup counter and make a roast video that's going to get 1 million views? Like, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, I would rather tell people what I think the truth is, what I believe the truth is, and I would like to educate them on what I know. I had to tell my mom the other day, I said, Mom, you're getting news-generated anxiety. I want you to promise me that you're not going to spend more than 15 minutes a day in a rabbit hole of the news, because it spins people up. I mean, it makes people very anxious. It gives them analysis paralysis, and it's not good for people to consume this much hate and rage.
And then when you have a show like this, though, we have a lot of good videos that kind of reminisce about what it's like here in this country, of being we the people. You know, we focus on a lot of these great things, too, here at this network. But, of course, there's a lot going on in that 24/7 news cycle. And Kate Monroe, thanks again for joining us. Former Marine, Special Intelligence Officer, the CEO of VetCom. Kate, thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Awesome to have Kate join us once again here on Right Side. I'm sure we'll see her again in the future, along with a number of other great people that are able to join this network. It's been quite awesome to interview a number of great people out there, including something called Everyday Americans. You might not have this title, or someone might not know who you are, but God knows who you are. And secondly, we the people is the most I'll say it, badass title you can have is we the people in the greatest country on earth. So we've had Everyday Americans on this network, not only when we're live at various venues throughout the country, but also right here on Zoom. I remember interviewing Joyce Simmons, I believe 87 years old, 86. Joyce, if you're watching out there in California, hello. That's an interview you can check out if you'd like. It's online. But, you know, that's what it's about, guys. That's what we do. You know, I'm not going to try and act like I'm the most brilliant person in the world, but I know this, that this is all about our love for God, family, country, and freedom, and let's just keep it going, right? Anyway, 3:41, Friday, March 6th. Great time for a Flashback Friday moment. How about it? Let's go to part one. This is, I think it's South Dakota, Pennsylvania, Florida, and I think that's it. But this is just some cool moments that I captured with my phone. Check it out.
We are a nation where free speech is no longer allowed, where crime is rampant and out of control like never before, and where more people died of COVID in 2021 than in 2020. And we are a nation that is allowing Iran to build a massive nuclear weapon in China to use the trillions of dollars it has taken from us to build a military to rival our own. And just 2 years ago, we had Iran, China, Russia, and North America. And they weren't going to do a thing against us. Not a thing. This might be the greatest rally we've ever had. And perhaps most important, we are a nation that is no longer respected or listened to around the world.
Okay, so if you remember, that was in Miami, Florida. I believe that was late 2022. We were there. It was a huge storm that came through here. I know I've told this story before, but wow, to see the president just keep going through that. Quite an awesome moment there in time as we just, aired a few Flashback Friday segments here on the network. Before I get to a couple new sponsors or new sponsor reads for this hour, Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe's back in the so-called headlines. Former President Joe Biden paid tribute to Reverend Jesse Jackson at his memorial service, saying he understood who we were at our best and never let us forget our responsibility as a party, as a nation, and as individuals. Joe Biden also saying we're in a tough spot, folks. We've got an administration that doesn't share any of the values that we have, and I don't think I'm exaggerating a little bit. That on Breaking 911, Sleepy Joe coming out of his hole there, I guess, or his basement and speaking a little bit. I don't know why he's doing anything, saying things like that we don't have the same values that the Democrats do. Come on now. But don't get me started on that. Anyway, 2:45 Central, 3:45 Eastern. Let's go to a couple of our sponsors, including Rumble Wallet. You may have seen those conversations out there. Censorship is unfortunately back, and it's happening everywhere. Platforms controlling narratives, pushing the stuff they want us to see. So we can fight back in that information and financial arena. Rumble is one of the only companies that has stood the test of time and deserves our support. On one side, Rumble is challenging big tech censorship. And on the other side, they have introduced something that will give us protection from the big banks shutting us off. As some of you may know, banks could cancel our accounts and freeze our cards. So that's why Rumble said, you know what? We're going to launch this Rumble wallet, a wallet that no one can cancel, and a wallet that supporters can use to instantly tip creators like us and others without any middleman taking the cuts. With Rumble Wallet, you control your money. Not a bank, not a government, not a tech company, not even Rumble can touch it. It's yours and only yours to protect your future and family. You can actually buy and save digital assets like Bitcoin and Tether Gold in one place. So Tether Gold is this real gold on the blockchain with ownership of physical gold bars. It's not only a wallet to buy and save, but it also allows you to support your favorite creators by easily tipping them with the click of a button. There will be no fees when you tip our channel or others out there, and we actually receive the tip instantly, unlike other platforms where we have to wait for those payouts. You can support our show and the other ones out there by clicking the tip button on our channel on Rumble, RSBN, of course. Go to wallet.rumble.com for more information. You can download Rumble Wallet today, open an account, step away from the big banks for good. Wallet.rumble.com or search Rumble Wallet in the app stores that you see on the bottom right of your screen. Let's also go to covepure.com/RSBN. Of course, we're past all that new year, new me stuff. This is the part where we could kind of forget about all of that or make it easy enough that we actually follow through. And that's where Cove Pure comes in. Here's the thing. Most people tend to go overboard buying new supplements, trying a new diet or workout, but then completely forget about the most important basic thing, H2O, water, right? So even mild dehydration impacts energy, focus, and metabolism. And when you think about all the garbage that's in our water, you start behind the curve before you even begin. So Cove Pure changes that immediately. They have the Clearwave technology. It's certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants, pretty much anything that isn't water. So those PFAs, microplastics, pharmaceutical residue, the fluoride all gets removed. It's the purest water you can get, and it's right there for you. covepure.com/RSBN. You see that $250 off for a limited time. What's amazing about Cove Pure as well is it lets you choose that temperature of your water, hot, cold, and warm. You just, with a tap of a button, you can get that boiling hot water in just a few seconds. It makes your water taste good, the way it's meant to be, pure, clean, no aftertaste. If you're trying to cut back on soda, it's easy with Cove Pure. Call to action, of course, here is simple. Cove Pure makes it so easy to get pure water with the push of a button. So instead of a big overhaul, make one small upgrade that adds up every single day. Clean water. Right now, you can get $250 off for a limited time if you use the link on the screen, covepure.com/RSBN. That's covepure.com/RSBN to take advantage of their special discount today. All right, some great sponsors there looking live on this Friday, March 6th at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and the Washington Monument there behind the South Lawn, way back there on the left. And of course, the Thomas Jefferson Memorial not too far from there as well. All right, so when's the last time you were in D.C.? You know, this is maybe a time to go, definitely a time to go when it comes to the National Guard being there, which is always nice to see that. And then we're seeing the crime go down big time there, thanks to the Guard, thanks to maybe just the police force saying, you know what, finally we have someone that's saying, hey, let's have some law and order around here. I remember going to a restaurant with my then girlfriend, now wife, and it was during COVID sometime, after COVID. It was kind of the time where you had to show, what was that, the card that you got vaxxed or whatever. And it was just what a wild time that was, guys. I'm just glad that we're not in that day and age now. I'm glad that that's in the past. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. That was crazy. That was wild times, wasn't it? All right, we're 10 minutes to the top of the hour. Let's do this. I'm going to check out some news headlines here. I'm Matthew Alvarez. If you'd like to follow on Truth Social, it's at Matthew Alvarez. On X, it's at Matthew US Media. And of course, if you want to follow us on RSBN, more than 4 million followers on Truth Social. It's at RSBN. More than 1 million on X, at RSB Network. We'll be right back here on RSBN Live.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First news. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
All right, welcome back to RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. I just want to give a shout out to my family who's most likely watching right now. So hello, guys. I love you. See you in a bit. Anyway, so let's go to clip 7 in case you missed it. This week, White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt had direct words about the fate of the Iranian regime. So let's go to clip 7.
Under the leadership of President Donald J. Trump, the rogue Iranian terrorist regime is being absolutely crushed. 47 years of tolerating and enabling the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism are over. Iran's murderous terrorist leaders are paying for their crimes against America, and they are paying in blood. Since 1979, the terrorist Iranian regime has actively and intentionally facilitated the killings of Americans. They chant death to America and fund other radical terrorists who attack our country and are seeking to destroy Western civilization itself. These terrorists seized our embassy and took 66 Americans hostage in Tehran. They slaughtered 241 U.S. service members with a truck bombing in Beirut. They killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. And this is just a small fraction of their blood-soaked record. Prior leaders have been too weak and ineffective to address this threat. Some, like Barack Hussein Obama, even sent pallets of cash that ultimately financed this terrorist crusade against the United States and our people, while signing stupid and naive deals that put Iran on the path of developing nuclear bombs. After years of endless appeasement and empty statements from politicians on both sides of the political aisle in this town, President Trump is finally the man of action. President Trump is holding these monsters accountable and permanently extinguishing their nuclear ambitions. Future generations of Americans will look to this moment as the moment where the specter of a nuclear armed Iran ended.
All right, so in case you missed it, of course, Carolyn Leavitt, for that press briefing happened earlier this week. It's on all of our social platforms and places like Rumble, YouTube, and everywhere. So if you missed that, you can check that out if you'd like. In the meantime, before we get to some more about Operation Epic Fury, not only from Carolyn Levitt, we'll go to the highest office in the land, President Trump. We'll hear from him. We'll also hear from, I believe it's Pete Hegseth, the Department of War Secretary, coming up as well. Let's go to angelpaste.com out of Spring, Texas, the Lone Star State. If you'd like to make a purchase, now's a great time to do it. You have 10% off right there with that RSBN promo code at the bottom of your screen. Outside of going to angelpaste.com, there's another way you can do it. Use the phone and use that QR code that you see on the bottom right of your screen as well. Takes you right to where you need to go. Go ahead and peruse the site a little bit, maybe make a purchase, because at the end of the day, it's always good to have some good skincare. And you have that right there with angelpaste.com. Let's also move to All Family Pharmacy, because ivermectin is back in the headlines. The National Cancer Institute has launched early-stage lab research to study how it works in the body, including how it may interact with cancer cells. Now, this isn't a treatment recommendation. It's more about the early-stage research, but it does highlight how medications that were once pushed to the sidelines are now being studied by major institutions. And for many Americans, that raises an important question about access to those medications. If you've been looking for a reliable place to get medications like ivermectin, antibiotics, mebendazole, hydroxychloroquine, NAD+, and other prescriptions, All Family Pharmacy makes that process simple. You go online, you complete a short medical form, a licensed physician reviews your request and prescribes if appropriate. So they believe Americans should be able to make informed decisions with their doctors, and they help make that happen. So go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Use that RSBN 10 promo code that you see there on the bottom right of your screen. They too have a cool QR code. You can go right to where you need to go. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Great sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's 3:56 Eastern Time, 12:56 out there on the West Coast. Again, whenever I say that, I always say, well, from coast to coast, thanks so much for watching. But also, of course, definitely Central Time Zone, Mountain Time Zone. But don't forget about the lovely states within the heart of our country, including places down here like Alabama and Louisiana, Mississippi, Georgia, Florida, over to Texas. Why not name all the states? Because you know what? I've been to, I don't know, maybe 40 of them, 45? I don't know. But some great states out there. And those of you that are watching from those various states, thanks so much for doing so. Go ahead and pass this link on to your friends and family as we get ready to see President Trump here in just a little bit. Before we go to President Trump, since we're not seeing a live feed quite yet, we can still talk about the president. He spoke about Operation Epic Fury at an event yesterday at the White House. Let's take a look at clip 8.
Most importantly, wonderful people that love our country. And before we begin, I think I will say a few words about what's going on with respect to our operation in the country of Iran. The United States military, together with the wonderful Israeli partners, continues to totally demolish the enemy far ahead of schedule and at levels that people have never seen before, actually. We're destroying more of Iran's missiles and drone capability every single hour, knocking them out like nobody thought was possible. As soon as they set off a missile, within 4 minutes, the launcher gets hit. They don't know what's happening. But we have the greatest military anywhere in the world. Their Navy is gone. 24 ships in 3 days. That's a lot of ships. Their anti-aircraft weapons are gone. So they have no air force. They have no air defense. All of their airplanes are gone. Their communications are gone. Missiles are gone. Launches are gone. About 60% and 64% respectively. Other than that, they're doing quite well. I said, what's left? But they're tough, and they want to fight. And they're calling. They're saying, how do we make a deal? I said, you're being a little bit late. And we want to fight now more than they do. We've had 47 years, depending on the way you count it, but 47 years of horror with this group. And, when you see somebody walking down the street without their legs, without the arms, whose face is so badly affected and hurt, It mostly came from 95% Soleimani and Iran, and we, other presidents, lived with it. I didn't live with it. And so our people are doing a great job. Again, the greatest military anyone's seen. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to be seeing the Commander-in-Chief in just a bit at the White House. As soon as we see the feed, we'll take you there. In the meantime, if you'd like to donate to Right Side, all you have to do is go to rsbnetwork.com/donate, as you see there on the bottom right of your screen. Also, some of those great moments there, as you see the president waving or speaking at various events, and also the vice president. I remember being actually at that event. I think it was in Middletown, Ohio, where J.D. Vance is from. So just remember some of these pieces of footage here, video that we're seeing there. But if you'd like to donate, go to rsbnetwork.com/donate. You can always send a check as well if you'd like. We have that address here for you. This is a P.O. box for you out there. A number of people donate to the network and have been for months, or in some cases years, as we are 10, maybe and a half years old now at this point. But go to 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama 36830, or you can go to rsbnetwork.com/donate. Also, talk about slash. Let's go from mypillow.com/RSBN as well, because the Mega Sale 2.0 is kicking right now. It's doing well. There's free shipping on all products, which is pretty awesome. Just received new Giza Dream Sheets at MyPillow from some family, so awesome to have that. A lot of great products to check out, including, I think I have it over here. I've said this before, but let me say it again. I've got the My Coffee. Good stuff here. I remember one of our production staff were handing me, back in the day, there were so many different MyPillow products that we had in the studio that they would literally just hand me products and we'd kind of show them off here. But that's one of them, My Coffee. Good stuff. Tomorrow's Saturday. Looking forward to that, coffee in the morning. I only drink coffee pretty much, I don't know, more on the weekends. I don't want to be on a caffeine kick being on the news. I'd be talking too fast. You know what I mean? So anyway, mypillow.com/RSBN. That is the place to go for some great products. All right, let's shift back to Operation Epic Fury as you're looking live at the White House. It's 4:02 Eastern time, of course, and we know that at the top of the hour, which is now, we'll see that live feed as soon as we do, where the president will be participating in a Saving College Sports Roundtable. That'll be in the East Room of the White House, just like he held that event at the White House just yesterday with that Inter-Miami CF college team, the MLS team, a professional team that won the championship in 2024. So today, about college sports. And again, usually after an event like this on a Friday, you'd think that we would hear from the press and there would be some Q&A in regards to a lot of stories that are happening out there. We've been talking about a lot of them throughout this broadcast that started at about 2:30 Eastern time. So as soon as we see the president, we'll take you there. In the meantime, let's go back to the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, speaking about Operation Epic Fury. We're in day 7 right now. I believe this is clip number, I don't know which clip it is. I think it's clip 9, so let's go there now.
Well, good afternoon. I'm honored to stand right here today alongside one of America's finest, Admiral Brad Cooper, Commander of U.S. Central Command. We just had a chance to spend a couple of hours together, better part of 2 hours, going through the entirety of this operation, Operation Epic Fury. And Admiral, I want to thank you for everything you do and your incredible leadership, for your dynamic thinking, the way you're attacking this problem set on every level. In just days of Operation Epic Fury, you and your team have delivered nothing short of devastating, precise strikes, taking out the better part of Iran's Navy, making it combat ineffective, neutralizing missile sites and launchers, and establishing total dominance over the skies we fly over and seas we fly over. Our forces are executing with unmatched skill, and the mission is advancing decisively. This is the kind of no-nonsense, results-driven warfighting that America demands. And you're delivering it in spades. You are the man for this moment. Admiral Cooper, on behalf of the President, the Department of War, and every American watching, I want to thank you for the outstanding job you and CENTCOM are doing. Keep pressing the fight, and we are with you all the way. A few thoughts before I hand it over to the Admiral for an update. Iran is hoping that we cannot sustain this, which is a really bad miscalculation for the IRGC in Iran. You see, there's no shortage of American will here. We remember and honor our fallen, those 6 that we will soon welcome at Dover, who gave everything for their country in this mission. We remember them. But we remember them by rededicating ourselves even more fervently to this mission. Our commitment to our mission objectives only increases as our advantages continue to increase. We've got no shortage of munitions. Our stockpiles of defensive and offensive weapons allow us to sustain this campaign as long as we need to. Again, our munition status only increases as our advantage increases.
Okay, so the Secretary of War briefing the media and all of us on the latest there with Operation Epic Fury. Also, about 2 hours ago, the commander of the United States Central Command, Admiral Brad Cooper, released an update on Operation Epic Fury as well, saying, quote, the Iranian terrorist regime has attacked 12 different countries and continues to deliberately target civilians throughout the Middle East. Last night, Iranian forces fired 7 attack drones at civilian residential neighborhoods in Bahrain. This is unacceptable and will not go unanswered. We will continue working with regional partners to address this threat to innocent people across the region, end quote. Again, that from Admiral Brad Cooper of the United States Central Command. He's the commander there, Brad Cooper is. You may have seen him a few times on some of those SETCOM videos and various press conferences that we've aired here at Right Side. Before we move on to some more of our videos that we're looking at and some more of the news of the day and news that we've been tracking, of course, we're going to go to the White House as soon as we see that live feed. As of right now, there is not one. As soon as there is, we'll send you there. In the meantime, let's go to Birch Gold Group, one of our great sponsors here at Right Side. You can think about the fact that in 2006, $20,000 equaled roughly 33 ounces of gold at spot price. And at today's prices, those 33 ounces would be worth about $165,000. So a lot of smart Americans out there are diversifying a portion of their savings into precious metals. And that's why you might want to consider buying gold from our friends at Birch Gold Group, because for thousands of years, of course, gold has been a store of wealth. And today it's a crucial part of any balanced strategy. Even better, Birch Gold can help you really convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered retirement account in gold. Just text Trump to the number 989898 to receive your free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, just useful information. They have that A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers. Let Birch Gold help you diversify with gold. All you have to do is text Trump to 989898. Again, that's Trump to 989898. Also, All Family Pharmacy, ivermectin, back in the headlines, as you guys have heard here on the network. The National Cancer Institute has launched early-stage lab research to study how it works in the body, including how it may interact with cancer cells. Now, this isn't really a treatment recommendation. It's early-stage research, but according to All Family Pharmacy, this does really highlight how medications that were once pushed to the sidelines are now being studied by major institutions, and that's a fact we can confirm too, because we've seen that happen. A lot of those stories out there are happening now. For many Americans, that raises an important question about the access to the medications. So if you're looking for a reliable place for those medications like ivermectin or mebendazole or hydroxychloroquine, and they have more than 300 prescriptions to choose from, All Family Pharmacy makes that process simple. So you go online, you complete a short medical form, and a licensed physician reviews your request and prescribes if appropriate. So they believe Americans should be able to make informed decisions with their doctors, and they help make that possible. So just go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Use that RSBN 10 promo code. You see it right there on your screen, 10% off, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. All right, double checking here. We're seeing if there's any feed with the White House, and there is not at this point. So what we're going to do is we'll take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back here on Right Side.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Back to RSBN Live, just released from President Trump on Truth Social and on the White House account, of course, as well, saying, quote, "We just concluded a very good meeting with the largest U.S. defense manufacturing companies where we discussed production and production schedules. They have agreed to quadruple production of the exquisite class weaponry in that we want to reach as rapidly as possible the highest levels of quantity. Expansion began 3 months prior to the meeting, and plants and production of many of these weapons are already underway. We have a virtually unlimited supply of medium and upper medium grade munitions, which we are using as an example in Iran and recently used in Venezuela." This, again, according to the president just moments ago. Regardless, however, we have also increased orders at these levels. The companies represented were CEOs of BAE Systems, Boeing, Honeywell Aerospace, L3 Missile Solutions, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and Raytheon. The meeting concluded with another meeting scheduled in 2 months. States all over the country are bidding for these new plants. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Reading that from X on that one, that time there. Usually I read, of course, from Truth Social here on the air, but that is what we're hearing from the president when it comes to munitions and more being manufactured and created. All right, so speaking of Operation Epic Fury, we know that that's day 7 right now. We dove into that information earlier. We'll take a look at some of those SETCOM videos in just a second, but we can revisit the White House when that 2025 champion MLS Inter Miami FC soccer team visited at the East Room, or the CF, actually. Got to get the letters right. This happened just yesterday. Let's take a look at those highlights.
Most importantly, wonderful people that love our country. And before we begin, I think I will say a few words about what's going on with respect to our operation in the country of Iran. The United States military, together with the wonderful Israeli partners, continues to totally demolish the enemy far ahead of schedule and at levels that people have never seen before, actually. We're destroying more of Iran's missiles and drone capability every single hour, knocking them out like nobody thought was possible. As soon as they set off a missile, within 4 minutes, the launcher gets hit. They don't know what's happening. But we have the greatest military anywhere in the world. Their Navy is gone. 24 ships in 3 days. That's a lot of ships. Their anti-aircraft weapons are gone. So they have no air force. They have no air defense. All of their airplanes are gone. Their communications are gone. Missiles are gone. Launches are gone. About 60% and 64% respectively. Other than that, they're doing quite well. I said, what's left? But they're tough, and they want to fight. And they're calling, they're saying, how do we make a deal? I said, you're being a little bit late. and we want to fight now more than they do. We've had 47 years, depending on the way you count it, but 47 years of horror with this group. And, when you see somebody walking down the street without their legs, without the arms, whose face is so badly affected and hurt, it mostly came from 95% Soleimani and Iran, and we, other presidents, lived with it. I didn't live with it. And so our people are doing a great job. Again, the greatest military anyone's seen. Thank you. Biggest fan. Yes. Really, huh? Pretty good, right?
Number one, number two.
Okay, so obviously some of the clips there was from yesterday's White House visit when the 2025 champion MLS team was there from Miami. So obviously at the beginning of that clip, you heard the president speaking about the latest from Iran when it comes to epic fury. So what we're about to do is just a few minutes out, maybe less, we'll go to the White House as the president has another event scheduled. We'll take you there live. And then on top of that, we'll hear from some reporters after the event as well. I'm sure there's a lot to ask the president about today. So as soon as we see that, we'll take you there. There you go. You can see right now that it is beginning shortly. So we'll go there in just a second. In the meantime, outside of any breaking news, here are a few notable dates for this year. This spring, sometime soon, not sure when, we'll know specifically once the White House lets us know, and the media in general, that the president will travel to visit Xi Jinping, the president of China. That's happening in China, coming up sometime in the spring. Of course, when you fast forward then to summertime, July 4th, 2026, our country turns 250 years young. All about freedom. Thank God for it. 1776 all day, right? In the sense of a new founded country, a birth of freedom that happened. Yet, to be officially announced as well, there will be a special RNC midterm convention sometime this year. I haven't seen that that's been canceled. That's something that they haven't released a date on. So that's going to be quite interesting to see that there's an RNC midterm convention. Usually those national conventions, as you guys know, when it's the presidential year, cycle year. But this time around for the midterms, the RNC going to hold a midterm convention sometime this year. Most likely, I would think, in the summertime. We'll see. Also, of course, November 3rd, 2026, a huge day in our country, the United States midterm election. All right, so that's some of the latest that we're tracking here as we can go over some of the objectives with this Operation Epic Fury. Of course, a lot of people saying we don't want boots in the ground over there. We want this to be a surgical strikes and take care of business for those that would say they want it. I mean, there's so many different people saying different things out there, and I'm just kind of repeating what they are saying out there. But at the end of the day, but one thing I can tell you is specifically directly from the White House and the president to the media that the objectives are clear: destroying Iran's missile capabilities, annihilating the Navy. We're talking about the Iranian Navy, and ensuring that the world's #1 sponsor of terror can never obtain a nuclear weapon. And finally, ensuring that the Iranian regime cannot continue to arm, fund, and direct terrorist armies outside of their borders. That was from March 2nd from President Trump. So that was the latest there on the 2nd. Of course, we're in March 6th, just a few days later, but pretty much those objectives are still what the administration is aiming for and the Department of War. Let's go now to the White House.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Thank you very much, everybody. Please. This is a very important meeting. We had a lot of important meetings today, but this is a big one because this is really the future of, I think, beyond college sports. This is the future of colleges, because we're looking at numbers that are coming in and the amount of money being spent and lost by otherwise very successful schools is astounding just in a short period of time. It's only going to get worse. So we have to save college sports and save, I believe, colleges. We have to save our Olympic team because so many sports that are in the Olympics will no longer be represented by people that went through college and became competitive, became great at the sport. We won't be anywhere near what we were. I think it's just a very, very important meeting. We have the most important people in college sports and really beyond. And what I'd like to do is I'll say a few words. I'm going to ask Marco and a few to also say a few words. And I'd like to take your suggestions. And we have the speaker. We have John Thune is here or represented. We have some of the big politicians, senators, Congress people that can make it get approved. Yeah, because we have to go through, I'd do an executive order. I'd love to do that. I'll probably do it anyway. We'll do an executive order. We'll see how it works, because it would be I have a really nice, simple idea. But we'll go through this process, and I think we'll get it through Congress. We have a good chance. I think it'll be very bipartisan. And I just want to thank you all for being here as we stand up for one of America's greatest and most beloved institutions. It's called college athletics, which is true, means so much. I want to thank Secretaries Marco Rubio, Scott Bessent, Doug Burgum, Howard Lutnick, Linda McMahon for being here, and also Speaker of the House Mike Johnson doing a great job, Governor Ron DeSantis, Senators Ted Cruz, Eric Schmidt, Leader Steve Scalise, Representatives Lisa McClain, Jim Jordan, Brett Guthrie, and Lori Trahan. Thank you all for being here. We have some great people. Condoleezza, thank you very much. I see you over there. Great to have you. Great to be with you. A very special welcome to New York Yankees President Randy Levine, friend of mine for a long time. I used to sit with George Steinbrenner in the box. It was one of the most difficult days of my life. I would always be, he liked me, I liked him, but we both liked very few other people. And we had a good time. We won a lot of games, right, Randy?
We never lost.
We never lost, actually. And a great champion of college athletics, former, as I just said, Secretary of State, a woman who's really respected, Condoleezza Rice. Thank you very much again, Condoleezza. And Ron DeSantis has been working very hard with us, and wherever you may be, Ron. Hi, Ron. And has some great ideas and some great coaches that gave him some great ideas. We're gathered today to discuss an important threat to the integrity and culture of college sports, the inability to set rules on eligibility, transfers, name, image, and likeness, and much more than that, in the face of endless lawsuits. And it's what's going on with the legal community is incredible. We had a lawsuit a couple of years ago by a radical left judge from California who decided, knowing nothing about football or college sports, that everything was illegal that was taking place. And I don't think it was ever appealed. Nobody can find out if it was appealed or not. But you can win an appeal. I think I win more cases on appeal than I do in front of some judges that are not very good. But it was a horrible, incredible ruling. And it threw the sports world and the college athletic world into tithers. And that's where we are right now. It's crazy things are happening. Young people are being signed, 17-year-old quarterbacks, for $12 million, $13 million, $14 million. We have a 7-year freshman You know, we have people, we're seeing things that we've never seen before. We have college players that don't want to go to the NFL because they're making more money in college, right, Jim Jordan? And a lot of really bad things are happening. But basic questions like who is eligible to play are now virtually unregulated and decided randomly by judges rather than by reasonable, agreed-upon rules that could be very simple and very simply drawn. So this has grown into a major challenge. We actually have some of the best sports agents here because I think they'd like to see it solved, but maybe not. I'm not 100% sure about that. But they're represented. We have everybody represented today, just about every group you can think of. But it's grown into a major challenge that threatens the future of college sports and really colleges themselves, because many are going to go down the tubes. It was announced that Penn State, their athletic division, lost $535 million this last year. Florida State, Ron and I spoke about it, $440 million loss. It was just announced that Rutgers lost $95 million, and they're doing all sorts of things to try and save the ship. And I think those numbers are nothing compared to what's going to happen. This is new. This just happened. Those numbers are going to go to levels that nobody's ever seen before. If you had no salary cap in the NFL, you'd see staggering losses. We have no salary cap in colleges. Colleges are going to have, unless something's done, unless we solve this problem. And I think probably today, and we're going to ask for ideas that, not that we don't have to take months. We'd like to see if we could do it for next season. But we certainly have the brain power. We have tremendous knowledge, far more knowledge than I have about this subject. But it also poses special dangers for women's sports and our Olympic pipeline. Women's sports are being canceled all over the country, just so we understand. Women's sports are in deep trouble, other than one particular women's team. That's Miami, where I have my granddaughter on the team. They canceled men's golf, but women's golf is doing just fine. I'm only kidding. But they are canceling golf. They're canceling wrestling. They're canceling fencing. They're canceling even basketball. I thought that would be maybe immune, but it's in trouble. And it's all going to football. But ultimately, football is going to be the worst laggard of all. It's not going to be affordable. And it's going to take down practically every college. In my opinion, it's going to take down virtually every college, or every college that wants to be, they think they want to be competitive. Under the current system, educational institutions find themselves in a financial arms race for athletes in sports like football and basketball, and both of them, but basketball is being hurt very badly. It's being dominated by football. Last July, I signed an executive order to stop destructive pay-for-play schemes that are all over the place and keep college athletics rooted in the traditions that made it great. I thought we had a great system, frankly. I thought we had a system that should have been appealed, and it could have been maybe perfected a little bit. But it took close to 100 years. It was developed over 100 years. And one judge that knew nothing about sports, knew nothing about football, knew nothing about Olympics, knew nothing about anything, just decided everything was unconstitutional. It's crazy. But only Congress now, it looks like, can deliver a permanent fix. So, Speaker, you and John and everybody else, including Democrats that are represented very strongly, we can hopefully get it done. Federal legislation must allow college athletic programs to set common sense rules, simple common sense rules, without endless litigation, and establish a fair name, image, and likeness standard that eliminates the patchwork of conflicting state laws. That's the other problem. All of these colleges, they're all in different states, and all the laws are different. So you got laws that are totally different, some one way, some an entirely different way, while allowing the full spectrum of college athletic programs to thrive. It should thrive. If Congress does not take action fast, it could destroy college sports and destroy the colleges that play these sports. They'll be destroyed. They'll be going bankrupt. Everyone, so many of them. No other nation in the world has built a system that develops champions in classrooms and on the field, producing Olympic heroes, professional legends, and the leaders of tomorrow all at once. I thought the system of scholarships was great. What do I know? But I thought it was great. And just one of those things. I was with Nick Saban the other day, and, you know, his timing is exquisite. He played and he won and won and won. And when he saw this thing, he said, I'm going to get out of it. I'm not doing this anymore. He's around here someplace. Where's Nick? Where are you, Nick? Right? Now, he doesn't admit this. I said, how come you left he didn't want to go through one season? Because there's no better mind at this than that man. And he looked and he said, what a shame. What a shame. And he's going to speak about it. And I think you have some very constructive ideas, Nick. I think so. No other nation in the world has built a system like this. It's so good, and we've thrown it right out the window. And I'd like to see you go back to something maybe resembling that, and maybe pay for each player. Not such crazy pay, but just pay for each player. With every player, maybe the quarterback and the third string lineman making the same. But you're going to tell us about it. We're going to try and get it passed. Our goal is not to go back to the days where student athletes were never allowed to receive any compensation, although not the worst idea, but I think a lot of people would overrule me on that. But we must pass reforms that protect the cherished American tradition of college athletics for future generations. So I look forward to hearing from a lot of you, and I think a few of you are going to say a few words, and then we'll get to some ideas. And I don't know, maybe by the end of a long session, if we need it, I'm here as long as you need me. They came to me, they said, you're the only one that can do it. I said, oh, thank you very much. I said, really, because I'm president, okay, to be honest. But we have certain abilities, and we'll see if we can get it done. So I'll ask in this order, Marco, you'll say a few words, and then Speaker Johnson, Randy Levine, Nick Saban, Charlie Baker, the Governor Ron DeSantis, and Greg Sankey, Sarah Hirschland, and Pete Bavacqua. And they'll go pretty quickly, and then we'll hear from some of the people. And we may have something come up that's somewhat of a miracle. There's an idea out there, and somehow it's going to have to be arrived at, because there's no way this system will allow colleges to, in my opinion, will allow schools to live financially. It's not going to happen. So if I could, I'll ask Marco, you can start, and then Speaker, and then we'll go through the list, and then we'll take some ideas or questions. All right? Thank you very much, Marco.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'll be very brief. The first is, I think you've already touched on, and that is what a unique institution college athletics is to the United States. Very few countries in the world actually have something like what we have. And it's not just unique, it's really important. A lot of people don't see some of the aspects of it that are so positive. The first is the student-athlete experience. There are literally thousands and thousands of young Americans who are going to graduate this year with not just degrees, but advanced degrees, and athletics made that possible. And the athletic support and the academic support that they're receiving from these schools is extraordinary. So there are kids that literally would not have gone to college or may not have considered it, and certainly not the advanced degrees, without the help that this provides. Also, the development of the individual that student athletics provides. I mean, look, if you can show up at 6 a.m. in the morning every day for a lift, you're learning one of the most important lessons in life. 95% of life is showing up where you're supposed to be on time. These are extraordinary lessons that people are gaining. Two more things that people don't think about: unity. Few things in America unify us anymore, and one of the things that does is college athletics. In particular, I can just, the experience of a Saturday, and I was about to say a Saturday in the South, but I don't want to discriminate against the other conferences. I'm sure it's true there too, where communities get together, people don't agree on anything else except that they want that home team on the field to win. And it's one of the few unifying experiences we have as a country, and it's so critical. And the last you touched on as well, Mr. President, this is the feeder program for our Olympic teams. Without it, there is no feeder program. Other countries have structured it differently, but the way we have it in our country is so unique in that way. We all know the challenges, and what this system now needs is a system of rules and regulations, of guardrails, so that everyone is operating under the same rules. And it's difficult to do because it's moving very fast, but you've got the right people in the room here, Mr. President, and the right leadership. So thank you for caring about this, because it truly is important for the country and for millions of Americans who are fans and thousands of families who have student athletes in their family who have experienced this system or are going through it now. So thank you.
And Marco has a conflict of interest that he didn't reveal, which is a very serious charge. Could be a criminal charge, actually, because his son is a very good player for a very good college and makes money with NIL. So this is a serious conflict of interest. But we'll take him. We waive his conflict. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's an honor to be here with so many of the all-time greats. It's a treat for us, members of Congress. There's many of them around the table, and they're happy to be working on the issue with you and for you. I would say, people often say that Speaker of the House is the most stressful job in the world, but then I think of SEC football coaches because they got to win every Saturday night. And my friends who are in those positions, I have a lot of sympathy for. I want to commend President Trump for his extraordinary leadership, and he leads on this important and complex issue as he does all others. He sees a problem, he wants us to solve it, and he assembles the right people to get that done. And I think he really is the only figure on the planet who could do that. So I thank you for that, Mr. President, getting everybody together. One more issue that we'll tackle. I'm a double alum from LSU, undergrad and law school, so I bleed purple and gold, and we talk a lot about college athletics down where I'm from. It's a big thing, but the whole country cares deeply about it because it's part of Americana, as Marco was saying. It's part of who we are as a country, and it's so important, and we have to navigate through these unprecedented waters together. I'm glad there's some really smart people who are working on that. Mr. President, Congress does need to act quickly because it's getting out of hand, and I think everybody here recognizes that. I want you to know the House has been working very deliberately and I think very effectively on this. We've done a lot of good work, and many of you are familiar with the SCORE Act. We passed a important procedural hurdle in December. We're right on the verge of passage in the House, and we now think we have the votes to do that. But that's why this meeting is so timely, because we want to have the conversation today and in the days that follow, because we want to make sure that we get it right. It's a bipartisan product. It has broad support in the House. We believe we'll have every Republican now, and we have a double-digit support of at least Democrats. It is bipartisan. A lot of good work's gone into that to get it there, and we think it may be the vehicle to get us to the next phase of this and this essential conversation. But the next step is preparing that legislation for final passage. So I was talking with Randy and many of you who are leading on this. This is a very important and timely conversation that we'll have today, and I said in the days that follow. We're encouraged to see all of you, the experts who know this issue better than anybody in the country, willing to put your time and effort into it and provide feedback, because we want the final product to be the best it can be. We want to accomplish the necessary ends, and we think we're very close. Everybody here wants to see this American institution succeed, and we have that opportunity within our grasp. And we want to make sure that the solution we develop actually works for student athletes who are at the heart of this, and that's who we care about so much. And we know that the foundation of any good deal begins with getting the right people in the right room, and this is the right room, and this is historic, and no one knows better than the man who literally wrote the book on it, and that's President Trump. And so I want to thank you for assembling us, Mr. President, and we look forward to the discussion. I yield back.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President, for putting this group together. Leading up to this, wherever I would go, because I had an interest in this, both professionally what the Yankees have done and my experience on board of directors of various colleges, everybody would say over and over again, this thing is failing bad, and it's like a hamster on a wheel. It kept spinning on the wheel but never getting off. It was never done. And they told me, please talk to the president, because he's the only person who will convene a group like this in order to reach a consensus to get it done. And he agreed to do it. But he said to me, if I'm going to do it, it has to be bipartisan. And he asked me and the speaker and everybody else to make sure it is bipartisan. And it is. We have people from both parties here, and that's what has to happen. So we put this group together. Why do we put this group together? Because it's representative of the people who know the best on how to solve this issue. We have college presidents who've been living with this from all over the country. We have some of the finest athletic directors who have been pioneers in this area. We have professional sports executives. Why do we have them in the room? The answer is, as Commissioner Silva would tell you, or Hall of Famer Lou Lamoriello, these issues have been in professional sports for a long time. We have a lot of experience. I negotiated the first revenue sharing agreement in baseball. Caps, revenue sharing, distribution, all of those things are what we live with every single day. So maybe we can share our experience and transport it here as long as it's in the context of college sports. There's one group that is missing, but they won't be missing from the final product, and that's the student athletes themselves. This group, as we move on, you can be assured we'll be talking to the student athletes and all their representatives to make sure their voice is clearly heard. You know, time is of the essence. People have told me they've been to Congress 15, 16, 17 times. One group goes in, the other group goes in, and nothing seems to get done. Time is of the essence. Besides the numbers the president talked about, I heard a story from one of the great professional athletes on the Yankees, one of our great players yesterday. And he went to a great university, and he said to me, "Thank you for doing this, because every day I got asked for more money for NILs, every single day." And what happened is I gave money for an NIL for a quarterback who left the next year. Meanwhile, a friend of mine, daughter is on the rowing team, and she lost her scholarship, and she's an Olympic hopeful, and now she has to pay her own way. That's just not right. It's really not right, and it has to be fixed. So, Mr. President, thank you for bringing this group together. I think they're really, just for discussion, we'll hear from everybody. I think they're really two things to add on to what the Speaker said that have to be done. One, there has to be an antitrust exemption because everyone in the room has to be able to talk to each other, all the conferences, the schools, the presidents, everybody, without getting sued. That includes the kids. They have to be involved in these negotiations, the student athletes. And there has to be an entity that's set up by the people who are going to administer this, run this, that are empowered by the legislation to handle all the issues the president spoke about. And we're all here to support that, to help that. And to make sure that it's just not business as usual. Just an idea I have is maybe that antitrust exemption lasts for 2 years to make sure that these rules and everything are really being enforced. And if they're not, we go back to square one. It'll give the Congress oversight, give the president oversight, but it's time to move. And Mr. President, I couldn't agree with you more. Thanks to your leadership, we got to move this really, really fast. We have ESPN and Fox here. They're probably the biggest payers in this entire thing, and the fact that they're here and their voice is heard is great. So, Mr. President, only you could pull this off, and we're grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Randy. And Nick Saban, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, for the chance and the opportunity to be here to speak with you today, but I just want everybody to know that I'm just a football coach. I spent my life when we had the ball trying to get a first down, when they had the ball trying to get off the field on third down. So this is an unlikely position for me to be in to speak to such a distinguished group of people. Thank you. But I come here today with a question. What are the guiding principles for the future of college athletics? All athletics. I'm talking about football, basketball, Olympic sports, revenue, non-revenue, it doesn't matter. You know, my goal as a coach for my players, for our players, was to help them be more successful in life, that we would create an atmosphere and environment that would help them through personal development, academic support, 668 degrees in 17 years at Alabama, and help them develop a career as a football player. That was our goal, so that they were creating value in life and we were preparing them for their future past athletics. So what happened? You know, in this current system that we have, that became impossible to do because people, instead of making decisions about creating value for their future, they were making decisions about how much money could they make at whichever school they could go to or transfer to. So I think we have a challenge here today about the ramifications of this current system on how it helps players be successful in their future, and how we can impact and create a system that will help and preserve the opportunity for student athletes to be able to have success in their future beyond athletics. So we need to develop an effective system of revenue sharing, authentic name, image, and likeness, authentic being you have marketing value, which now we have collectives, which just create opportunities, which just become pay for play. Eligibility issues where we have guys playing 6, 7, and 8 years. So you have 25 and 26-year-old people playing against 18 and 19-year-olds, which is not healthy. Transfer rules, we have over 4,000 people in the portal. Fans don't like it, support groups don't like it. It's not really healthy for players in graduation to transfer several times in your career. You really put yourself in a pickle in terms of your ability to graduate. So I think we need to come up with a system, and we obviously have to do it with the President's leadership and also with Congress probably, whether it's antitrust legislation or whatever it is, to allow student athletes in all sports, including women's and Olympic sports, to enhance their quality of life while going to college, but still provide opportunity to advance themselves beyond their athletic career, which is what the philosophy of college athletics and getting a college education has always been about. And how much does anybody talk about getting an education anymore? Nobody talks about it at all, which is the most important thing any of these student athletes can do in terms of enhancing their future. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nick. Charlie Baker.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. I especially want to thank you for putting me in the lineup after the most legendary college football coach of all time. And I really want to thank you for your interest in this issue and your commitment to it. And I also want to thank you for the work that your administration has done on a number of different issues, working with our team and with many members of the folks who are in this room today. You know, today there are more kids playing college sports than at any time in our nation's history. There's 556,000 student athletes across all 3 divisions playing on behalf of 1,100 schools. And those 1,100 schools are second only to the United States of America in terms of the amount of financial assistance they make available to those student athletes. It's over $4 billion. That's also the biggest number we've ever invested as a community in the student athletes who attend our schools. There is a lot that is right with college sports, and anybody who watched the Women's Olympic Championship game between Canada and the United States would know that, among other things, all of the players on both of those teams were former college student athletes. All 46 of them from both teams that played in that championship final. Women's sports has grown dramatically. The visibility of women's sports, the viewership of women's sports, the attendance at women's sports, the investments in women's sports have all gone dramatically up over the course of the past 10 years or so. And if you talk to almost anybody who follows youth sports, they'll tell you that the growth in youth sports on the women's side continues to be profound. But that said, everything everybody has said about the challenges we face at this particular point in time is true. And I want to give a special thanks to Speaker Johnson and to Leader Scalise for the work that they've done, you know, to use a sports analogy, carrying the ball on behalf of the SCORE Act in the House chamber over the course of this year. It deals with the rules issue, it deals with the agents issue, it deals with some of the financial issues, it deals with the equity question, it deals with a wide variety of the issues that are challenging for so many in the college sports space these days. And the final thing I'll just say, we have, I talk to a lot of people who are connected in one way or another to college sports, both in this country and around the world, because they have children who attend college here in the U.S. And over and over and over again, the thing I constantly hear is there's nothing like college sports anywhere else in the world. And you are so lucky to live in a country where you have a system that works for young people the way this one works for young people here. So I'm deeply grateful for your commitment to this issue. I'm thrilled by the folks you've managed to put around this table. I agree with others who said there's probably nobody else who could do that. And college sports was a great thing for me and my kids and my wife and so many. I know a lot of kids who wouldn't have graduated from high school, much less gone to and graduated from college if it wasn't for college sports. It's a truly unique American jewel, and we should do all we possibly can to ensure its success for the next generation and the generations after that. So thank you again for having us all here today.
Thank you, Charlie, and you're doing a great job. Appreciate it. Ron, please.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, for doing this. I mean, you have pedaled to the metal on so many different issues, from national security to border to energy, and you're not taking the pedal off any of that, and you could be forgiven to say college sports is important, but your plate's full, and you just added it to all the other things that you're doing, and I thank you for that, because this would not get done without your leadership. No one else could get this group together. No one else could work with Congress to be able to do it, and so I appreciate it, because it is important to a lot of people. I mean, we know this is out of whack. We went from a system where you couldn't give a student athlete anything. They could sell your jersey, you get nothing, to now, quarterback throws for 300 yards and they go see the coach. Hey, I need more money. Give me more money from the club. Okay, I'll transfer. Or they get money and I don't want to play in that bowl game. Sorry, I'm just going to sit out. And I think that that's been bad, certainly for college football and college sports. But let's just be clear, and a lot of the speakers have said, and I speak from being in the South, college football is king. It's not even close. University of Florida is the reigning NCAA basketball national champion. The football team, I think they won 4 games. So guess what? Are the fans happy being the NCAA? Not really. They're mad because football didn't do good. And football has been able to generate so much money over the years that it's subsidized a lot of the other programs, a lot of these non-revenue sports. People have had more and more opportunities. Well, now, with the collectives and how much it's costing football, the costs are going up dramatically, and it is threatening these other sports. And, you know, look, yes, being able to produce Olympians, being able to do that, I think it's really important. But 99% of Division I athletes are not going to make a living at it, and they're not going to play in the Olympics. And I speak as somebody, you know, I was the baseball captain at Yale. Like, if we had NIL there, I probably wasn't going to get a lucrative NIL deal. That's fine. I get it. But, you know, what being a college athlete teaches you, there's a reason why the Naval Academy and at West Point, you have to be an athlete when you go through there, because it teaches you discipline. It teaches you about hard work. It teaches you about competitiveness. It teaches you how to cope with failure. And so a lot of the people, the students in these sports that may not be as glitzy, but are going to be harmed by the current trajectory, these are going to be future leaders of our country in a variety of different endeavors. And so I'm thankful that this is going to get done under President Trump's leadership. This is a bipartisan issue. You know, we are so division on all this different stuff. There is no partisanship about this. We all want our universities and the athletics to succeed. A lot of the speakers have talked about the issues of eligibility. I mean, how do you have there till you're like 25, 18 to 25, and you're still playing? How do you play in the NBA G League and then come back and play in college? How do you get to transfer all these different things? We know those need to be addressed. And obviously the compensation with NIL, I signed one of the first NIL bills, but that was like, if they're making money off you, you get. Now they're doing like perpetual negotiations, even more than pro athletes can do. So I'm confident this is the group to do it. This is the president to do it. And there's going to be a lot of people in our country that are going to be happy when this problem is fixed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ron, very much. Very much. Greg?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for convening this group. And I also think it's important to point out, you've been to Tuscaloosa a few times for great football games, a couple national championships, and I think the power of your presence around college sports is an important factor in this conversation. I had a knock on the door of my residence hall in 1983 by my baseball coach. I was a bad catcher at Laterno College. That's why I'm here today, because he taught me some lessons that had I not been in that situation, I never would have learned. I've spent 2 of the last 3 weeks with our student athlete leadership councils, and I asked them, what would you say in a room like this that people need to hear, and that there were two things that they wanted me to communicate. One is, when I line up at kickoff, at tip-off, or I put my cleats in the starting blocks at a track and field meet, I want to know the other people in other uniforms from other teams in other states and other campuses are held to the same standards and the same rules to which I am being held. They also want to know that they're being supported from a physical and a mental well-being standpoint. Part of that is their concerns about sports gambling and the pressures that are emerging upon them. I think the themes that have been communicated here, rather than go through my notes, are worth restating. This is a bipartisan, I would argue a nonpartisan issue. This is a circumstance where among the four conferences, the ACC, Big 12, Big 10, and SEC, over $2.3 billion was spent in FY24 to support Olympic sports. And in Paris, 219 U.S. medalists went through the college sports system, 89 of those being gold medalists. In college sports, we move young people from adolescence to adulthood through education, through becoming part of a community, which they otherwise would have not experienced, and the opportunity to build a legacy. In the current environment, each of those elements is interrupted. Transferring 4 or 5, I have a basketball player in my league on its 6th campus, does not provide educational achievement opportunities like we should demand. Being part of a community when you transfer that much doesn't happen, and building a legacy is overrun by the next name, image, and likeness opportunity. I appreciate what's been done in the House and the SCORE Act. Speaker Johnson, I once lived in Natchitoches, Louisiana, a place you represent. Leader Scalise, your work, I know Congressman Roy has been part of those conversations and others in this room, and it is bipartisan, but we need to bring more people in, and we have work to accomplish in the Senate. We cannot go on longer in this circumstance, and this is not about revenue. This is about structures and national standards for eligibility, for transfers, for medical care and mental wellness care, for transparency and accountability around name, image, and likeness activity. We'll fracture more if we fail to act. That's why the appreciation, Mr. President, for the gathering is most sincere, because I want to see our women's sports thrive. In the Southeastern Conference, we currently have 10 national championships. 2/3 of those are in women's sports. We didn't achieve that mountaintop in football this year. We'll keep working on that. We want our Olympians to go through our pools and our track and fields and our volleyball courts. And we want young men who aspire to be in the NBA or the NFL to be educated, to mature, and to grow as they seek that achievement. We ought to be focused on making college sports great yet again, and I look forward to being a part of this conversation moving forward.
Thank you, Greg, very much. Sarah Hirschland, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me start by saying thank you, President Trump, and your whole administration for your continued support of both Team USA and the Olympic and Paralympic Games. I'm proud to be here today to represent Team USA, and I will say it is no surprise to anyone in this room that we are the greatest sporting nation in the world. Team USA is the most successful team in history, with more Olympic medals than any other nation. One of our competitive advantages is the education-based sports system our country has embraced for more than a century. America's colleges and universities built a world-class athletic system that develops the whole athlete, academically and competitively. This system is the envy of the world, as we heard Charlie say. It has also been the backbone of Team USA for generations. The results speak for themselves. You heard Greg reference some, and I'll just expand. The athletes from just the Paris Games represented 231 different college institutions and 71 conferences. 90 different schools were represented by our medalists from just the Paris Games alone. This success does not happen by accident. It is directly impacted by the broad-based, sustained investment in sport on campus. You've heard that referenced. This is not something we can take for granted. To say that our country should be grateful to colleges and universities and their athletic programs is an understatement. And while the United States has topped the gold medal table in 8 of the last 10 summer games, I am here to tell you the margin is narrowing. Around the world, nations are investing aggressively in sport, building centralized training systems, expanding funding, and prioritizing athlete development in new ways. That growing global competition comes at a moment when U.S. colleges must increase their investments in football to stay competitive. The economic pressures are unsustainable. We've heard this several times, and we know that Olympic sport budgets inevitably rise to the top as the first to be cut. And in some cases, women's sport, but it's also men's sport, may be eliminated. We must keep our eye on both. We know what happens when those investments are reduced or disappear. It hinders the future pipeline of Team USA, but frankly, it threatens the future health of sport in our country. We cannot wait for the economic pressure to create this crisis. We stand here today, Team USA, in solidarity and partnership with the collegiate sports community to encourage Congress to pass legislation that stabilizes the foundation of sport on campus and ensures a healthy and robust ecosystem for student athletes across a wide array of Olympic sports and football, which is kind of coming to the Olympics. Let me conclude by assuring you that American athletes are ready for this global challenge. In fact, we welcome it. But the pursuit of excellence deserves a system that continues to invest in them. Thank you, Mr. President, and to our congressional leaders, to the college administrators, and to the many representatives across the sports industry who are here today. We value your commitment to sport, and we welcome your partnership. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And we'll conclude with our little early speeches, but we'll hear everybody that wants to. If you have an idea, if you don't have any ideas, maybe you don't bother, okay? But if you have something good, and maybe what we're talking about with the SCORE Act, it seems to have a lot of support, but we'll talk about that. Pete Bavacqua, please.
Hey, Mr. President, thank you. Thanks for having us all here, and a special thanks on behalf of Notre Dame for your kind words about Coach Holtz. I know he was a dear friend of yours, so we appreciate that. And this meeting is important. It's timely. I think everybody around this table knows that we need help to straighten this out. We need the help of Congress. In this post-House world of NIL and compensation, we're finding ourselves in a situation where college football, particularly men's basketball, women's basketball, but particularly college football, I don't think it's any secret that people understand that so many of the decisions around college sports are driven almost solely by college football. And college football is certainly important to Notre Dame. We make no secret about that. But it's become a runaway financial train. And if it continues to be that way, even the healthiest of universities are going to have to make incredibly difficult decisions that are going to impact women's sports and Olympic sports. There's simply no way around that. So we need regulations. We need financial transparency, and we need repercussions. People's feet need to be held to the fire. And I talked to Coach Saban before we entered into this room, and we were talking about the transfer portal. And Greg mentioned it as well, but when you have young men and women going to 3 schools in 3 years, 4 schools in 4 years, the student athlete, and they're student athletes, they're not just athletes, and we're forgetting the academic part, we're forgetting the student part. And if you're going to 4 schools in 4 years to make a few more $100,000 on each stop, where when you're 21, 20 years old, you think all your financial troubles have gone away, you're going to find at the end of that college experience, you're not going to have an academic degree. That money that you thought you could rely on for the rest of your life is going to be absent by the time you're 23 or 24, and you're going to have the rest of your life, you're going to find yourself in a very difficult position. So we have to talk about financial transparency, and we have to restate the importance of the student-athlete experience. We can't forget that, because the percentage of people that can go on and play in the NBA, the WNBA, the NFL is extremely low. And it's the importance of that academic degree that you get throughout your student-athlete experience that's going to serve you so well for the rest of your life. And quite frankly, I think if we can agree on regulations with real repercussions, and we go down the road of a free market enterprise where college football continues to be a runaway train financially, I think there's got to be a commitment that if you're going to spend X on college football and Y on men's basketball and Z on women's basketball, you should be required to pay some sort of percentage of that to reinvest into your own Olympic movement within your universities. So I think this meeting, as I said, is important. I think we're coming to a point where we're going to be at no return if we don't get our act together and try to speak with one voice and solve this. So thanks again, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Pete. So maybe we have to start with a base, because I'd like to say the base should be what we had before, which worked so well for so many years with scholarships. When I heard Charlie say the kind of numbers that was paid in the form mostly of scholarships, that was pretty impressive. But maybe we can't go back. Maybe we have to go forward. And what's happened is sitting here with Jim and some of the people that are talking about the SCORE Act, maybe that should be the base, and maybe we should work off that. But if anybody has any ideas, I'm just noticing all of the divisions, all of the people that have supported it, including the NCAA, the 31 Division I conferences, 23 Division II, 22 Division III, all HBCU conferences. I mean, a lot of, and a lot more than that. So maybe that can be a base. That's the SCORE Act, which I know it's been, Mike has worked on it long and hard. We have a great guy, Jim Jordan, right here. He was a great athlete. He was virtually undefeated in college wrestling, virtually. I don't know. There was probably one bad night, I think, Jim, right? But he was some great athlete, some great wrestler, and that sport is being, torn apart by what's happening right here.
Well, it sure helped when you came last year, Mr. President. Sure helped when you were at the NCAA championship last year.
Right. If we could go, and if somebody would have some suggestions. Mike, do you like the idea of using this as a base and we work off the base, or would you like to start from ground zero?
Well, I think I speak on behalf of the legislators around the table that worked really hard on the SCORE Act, and many who have been involved and brought their ideas to the table. Our fear is that if we begin from scratch, I think everyone around the table understands this could take a long, long time. A lot of the debate and discussion and deliberation has gone into this. I got this one-page summary I'm happy to pass around. I assume most people around the table know the basic parameters of the bill and where we are. But the idea would be that if there are, Randy and I were speaking earlier before we went into the Oval Office, there may be some ideas to enhance it or make it better. We want to have the best possible product. I mean, maybe, Mr. President, I think that's a good suggestion. We begin from that. For lack of a better idea, if anyone has a better base that we should begin with, we're open to it. But I'm looking at some of my chairmen of the committees of jurisdiction, and everybody's worked really hard on this. And our majority leaders down at the end of the table, Steve Scalise, has kind of helped quarterback this, pun intended, to get it through the process. And if you have specific questions about specific points or parts of that legislation, we're happy to answer that. But maybe that's part of the discussion. Maybe we could, maybe the question is not a rhetorical one, but a question for all of you. Does anyone have any big concern about what is currently on the table in the SCORE Act, or have ideas on how to improve it?
Would anybody oppose, I mean, most of you have studied the SCORE Act more so than I have. Would anybody feel strongly opposed to starting with the base of the SCORE Act, which has gone through a lot? You would oppose it? Go ahead.
Well, first, I'm Lori Trahan. I represent Massachusetts and appreciate being invited to this today. And I'm really happy to hear you talk about women's sports in particular. I played Division I volleyball at Georgetown. That's changed my life. And so really have spent a lot of time on college sports. And I think I'm the only Democratic legislator in the room. I'm not going to pretend to speak for all of them, but I do think we want to solve college sports as much as everyone here. I think one of the issues that we had with the SCORE Act, I look at this as we've got some revenue issues and governance issues. The SCORE Act, in its codifying the House settlement, really hurts women in Olympic sports. We've already seen a number of programs cut across the country. So I think we do need a revenue mechanism to save and protect. One, strengthening Title IX has to be part of the SCORE Act, as well as ensuring that we are funding those programs. I mean, look, I'm also a mom. I've got a college athlete, son who played lacrosse. I've got another daughter who hopes to. Sports is the lifeblood right now. People are they're playing sports at record levels at the youth league. If this is any time we should be expanding opportunities for sports, it's right now. And I think one thing that the SCORE Act represented was just a consolidation of what we have today, which is the SEC and the Big Ten. No offense, Greg and Tony, but all the money really is going to those two conferences right now, and we need to address the revenue issue. I know there's been some proposals as far as modernizing the Sports Broadcasting Act. That could be one. I'm open for discussion on that. And then certainly making sure that we have a strong federal standard for NIL. A patchwork of laws does not work. I couldn't imagine signing my letter of intent and having to study up on every single state law and who offers what. But making sure that we have athletes' voices mandated at the table. They're not here today, so I do feel a responsibility to represent those 560,000 athletes who are not here right now, but making sure that they've got recourse if their NIL rights are violated or not upheld. But let me just say again, I would love to work, and maybe the SCORE Act is the right vehicle, that we continue to tweak so that it has a path in the Senate as well. I know that there's a lack of consensus on many of the governance issues, but we'd like to solve that with everyone here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, you might want to respond to that.
Well, there's some good points made there for sure, and I think everybody has the same intention as we want to protect women's sports as well, and I got two daughters. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that. But with regard to the patchwork of state laws, as many of you probably know, the SCORE Act addresses it because it creates a national NIL standard, and then it allows the associations the authority to make rules on transfers and compensation caps and the things that are really burdening the system. And then it protects those rules from being challenged under antitrust laws. So we create an exemption there for that. So I think there are a lot of thoughts gone into how to address it there. But I mean, again, we have no pride of authorship here. We want to have the best possible product. So, I mean, the authors of the bill are open to good suggestions. So, yield back.
Anybody, please? Yes, Steve?
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate you bringing everybody together, because I think we're all here because we have a passion to protect college sports, and we've recognized that with this wild, wild west mentality, it's not healthy for the future of college athletics. And so bringing structure back and really bringing the ability for the schools to govern themselves again is what our intention was from the very beginning. We started this a few years ago. I remember Coach Saban came to my office and others, and we started listening to the people that are there at the schools dealing with the problem as payment of students became legal, which happened through legal arguments that, Mr. President, you talked about, some of these lawsuits that ultimately broke down the framework that Charlie Baker and others were able to use to police college athletics. That's gone now. And so how do we put that structure back? So we listened to the schools, we listened to the different conferences, all the different conferences. We talked to a lot of student athletes. We have a number of student athletes in Congress who played different sports, who are co-sponsors of the SCORE Act, and came to this from that same approach, saying, as somebody who played athletics or somebody who just has a passion. I lived in Tiger Stadium my second year at LSU. You know, in case you're wondering where my leanings are, but I care about the future of college athletics, and when you see a student athlete, as you talked about, Pete, on their sixth school and they're 28 years old, number one, they're not going to have any college credits to be able to graduate. And the idea of being able to get a degree for the 99% who aren't going to play professional sports is just going to be lost. And how can you reestablish that? So we started putting some things together. We have the antitrust protections in this bill. We protect women's sports in this bill. We established, Mr. President, that Title IX maintains so that however many men's sports you have to have an equal number of women's sports. Some schools have a lot of sports. Some schools can only afford a few, but whatever you have to have an equal number of women's sports, and that's protected in this bill. And obviously, the Olympic sports are protected as well. We also wanted to make sure you could put limits on the transfer portal, because that is something that a lot of people get very frustrated when they see that you just have pure free agency. The professional sports don't even have that. And so you limit with, and again, open to suggestions, but what everybody seemed to come to an agreement on was 5 total years of playing with 1 ability to transfer within that. And there's flexibility by the governing organization, so the NCAA can look at a case by case. If your father's on life support and you want to transfer to a different school to be close to your family, you can get an additional 1, but let the governing body be able to do that again. We put those in the bill, and then we give the financial literacy requirements so that student athletes have more protections that they currently don't have today. You might be getting that $300,000 or $2 million contract. You might not even know you have to pay taxes on that. And you might run into some real financial problems if you're a 17, 18-year-old kid. We make sure the schools educate the kids on financial literacy. So we put a lot of other things, including health protections, as Commissioner Sankey talked about. So we listen to students, we listen to schools, we listen to all the conferences, all the HBCUs support this bill, and we built a framework and we built a coalition. We're right now at a point where we've got more than a majority in Congress supporting this bill, including, as the Speaker said, double-digit number of Democrats who support this bill. So it's a bipartisan coalition. We absolutely will take more input, but only input that grows the coalition, not detracts from the ability for student athletes to get that structure that they and the schools need. That's what the SCORE Act does. We want to move on it soon, because I think we all recognize that we can't wait another year and have this wild, wild west continue, and it will take the Senate some time to start their own process. So I'm expecting we're going to be moving soon, in hopefully the next few weeks, on the SCORE Act in the House, and then keep this conversation going, keep growing this coalition to solve this problem. Mr. President, thank you.
Thank you, Steve. But we have to move it quickly. Otherwise, you're going to have another season that's a disaster. And it's not affordable by colleges. Next to you, Steve, you had something to say? Thank you.
I did. Thank you, President Trump. My name is Jim Phillips. I'm the commissioner of the ACC. We welcome Kai this fall. I'll be your commissioner, so we'll look forward to seeing you out watching her play. I went on a college campus 30-some years ago and never left until I became commissioner. And I will tell you, we need your help. We need everybody's help in this room. There are 6 areas that the SCORE Act is the right piece of legislation. First, as been mentioned, there's a national law versus state legislation and patchwork. We have 37 disparate laws across the country, so what you can do in one state is different than what you can do in another state. That just doesn't work. When you have inter- and intrastate competition, as Greg mentioned so well, the student athletes want to know that they're lining up against somebody that's abiding by the same rules, NIL, rev share, and the rest. Second, it's a reaffirmation that these are student athletes. Not one of the commissioners in this room has had a student athlete come up to them and say, we would like to be an employee. They're smart enough to understand what that means. Third, limited liability protection. The lawsuits are killing us. They're absolutely crushing college sports. If you don't like a rule, you just go to the local judge, and the local judge deems you eligible. Fourth, degree completion. It's never been better to be a student athlete. You can come back to school and get a degree. You have a chance to be a pro and you leave early, we want you to come back. Fifth, medical care. The medical care is as good as I've ever seen in my 30 years, ever. And it's mental health as well as physical health and well-being. Finally, the codification of the House case. And I heard the mention of hurting women's sports. I will say in the ACC, similar to the SEC, Big 12 and Big 10, we have added 942 new scholarships because of the House case. 56% in the ACC of those scholarships have gone to women's sports. So the House case has not hurt women's sports. It has not. And The idea that we can sustain this is just not, has been expressed, is just not feasible. So we need your help. We thank you for taking your time and assembling this crew, and we look forward to working together.
So the concept of what we're doing with your great experience is a pretty good start. Yeah. If you could pass that around would be great. This is a summary of the SCORE Act, which I think people should see. So you like the concept of what we're doing? Very good. Yeah, it sounds it.
Yes, sir.
Good. Thank you very much. Please.
Tim Pernetti, the Commissioner of the American Conference. Mr. President, thank you for putting this incredible meeting together, and more personally, thank you for your support of the Army-Navy game. Army-Navy are members of the American Conference.
Thank you.
Like a lot of people have said in this room, I had the same experience. College football changed my life. I couldn't afford college. I got a scholarship, and it changed everything. And I won't reiterate all the reasons why SCORE makes sense, because there's a lot about it that makes sense. But what we have to remind ourselves, and there's a lot of business people in the room, is we're not solving the economic crisis as part of it, because we are in a real economic crisis in college sports. Like, we have complex challenges. The mission is completely out of focus. This thing was about education through sport. That's what it was supposed to be, to what Coach Saban said. It still is that, so long as we put it back in focus. But we can get through SCORE, create more consistency, because the industry has a lack of consistency from eligibility all the way down the line. But we have to examine other ways to solve the economic crisis. And these things shouldn't impede each other. And I know it is a very hot-wired topic, but looking at the opportunity for the industry to bring together valuable commercial resources in the future, such as unifying their media rights, is something that should be examined. And we're not making that decision today. If the Sports Broadcasting Act can be amended to provide college football the antitrust protection that the pro leagues have to be able to unify their media rights, that gives the industry an option, which is the important word, in the future. And that's really what the industry will need. This is an expense problem, but there are revenue paths that we haven't ventured down yet. The reality of all this is going to take bold steps. It's going to take guts. And this has become a transactional business where commitment is flying out the window, but it's not everybody. The top 1%, which is how the industry's been designed to serve the top 1%, 99 out of 100 student athletes in our league don't want to be employees, to what Jim Phillips said, and they signed up for a great experience. Like, our responsibility is to make sure we reinforce the mission and create resources around them to have the experience. But that conversation, whatever side of it you're on, should be had to see if there's an option in the future to dramatically improve the economics for the industry. Thank you so much, Mr. President.
Well, thank you, and thank you for mentioning the Army-Navy game, because as you know, I signed an executive order to protect that time slot so that during that, from like 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock or 6:30, I guess, we protect that space, that airspace, so nobody can play a football game, and we have the Army-Navy game protected, because the kind of money that's being thrown around, they were a little bit concerned that the Army-Navy game, as great as it is, may not do so well. I think it would actually do pretty well, but we protected the time spot anyway, so that during that little period of time, it won't have any of this competition where lots of money's being thrown around. I think it was a worthwhile protection, because it really is it is a very special time and a special, very special game. So thank you very much. Great job. Anybody else around?
Mr. President, could I just, before
Yes,
you're being handed you're given a handout that just has a quick summary bullet points of the composition of the SCORE Act for those that aren't familiar with it. And let me just apologize. I think NIL has been abused, and my staff put my name and image on the top of it really big, and it's sort of ironic and not intended. Sorry about that.
You didn't get paid for it.
Yeah, I didn't get paid anything for it. Yeah, yield back.
Anybody else, please? Cody, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, I would like to express my gratitude for your involvement and interest in all of this, and especially personally the opportunity to be involved in helping to find the solution, because college sports, as many have said, changed my life, made me a better businessman, a better husband, better father, and made me better at life in general. This is a complex issue. It's multifaceted. There are a lot of different perspectives on how it should be solved. There are a lot of different agendas that are represented in this room. And the SCORE Act is a good start. It gives us a place that we can build on. But as we move into the Senate, the political dynamics are going to change. And many of the agendas that are represented in this room and outside of this room are going to come into conflict with one another. The reality is nobody's going to get everything that they want. If we're going to come to a solution on this, we have to find a place where we're all sort of equally unhappy, so to speak. That's just like any other business deal. And I think what's key is that we are all willing to come to the table and compromise and work together, recognize that the small schools are important, the big schools are important, women's sports are important, Olympic sports are important. It's not just about big-time college football. And so that may require you twisting some arms along the way to make sure that people work together and are willing to give a little bit and understand that this whole ecosystem of college sports belongs to all of us. It's a national treasure. It's a public trust, as I've heard Clay Travis say before, and I think it's very accurate. And so it belongs to all the American people, and all the American people should share in it. And so I would just encourage everyone here, and I think that might even be a commitment that you could ask everyone to make, is that they will work together, they will compromise, come to the table, and be constructive.
So, Cody, I know you have worked very hard on this, and frankly, you've been working on it long and hard, maybe harder than anybody else. I've heard your name mentioned more than anybody. Could you use this as a base, and we all get together, maybe as a smaller group, and ultimately report back to the larger group and come up with something? Do you think this is a good base?
Yes, sir. I think it's certainly a good base, and it's a great starting point. Again, the dynamics will be different in the Senate, and we'll have to build on it from there. And again, a lot of these tougher issues are going to come to the surface once we get there. But absolutely, we should convene a smaller group that can work on those things and work on the compromises that need to be made to be able to have a bill that can get 60 votes in the Senate.
Is there any way we could go back to the old system, which I thought was fantastic, and do something with some compensation for the players and simplify things so that you'd go back to a scholarship system plus some compensation, more minimal, but a lot for a player? I mean, for the most part, they would consider it to be a lot, whether it was $75,000 or $50,000 or maybe more than that. But you go back to that wonderful system that I thought we had until this judge decided to just throw everything out the window. And it's been worked at for years and years, and it was finally honed. And then all of a sudden we're sitting in this crazy neverland where colleges are losing hundreds of millions of dollars, and in many cases not even putting out competitive teams. It's incredible. Is there any way that can work? Coach, we were together, and you had some pretty strong ideas. How would you feel about that?
As a coach, well, first of all, thanks for having us. And
Thank you, Coach.
I speak on behalf of so many of my former colleagues that I visit them now, and they're a mess. I don't see coaches sticking around longer. The coaches are getting paid very well, so they leave and enjoy their life, because what they're dealing with is the loss of a locker room. You take away team, and our country's in trouble. My two girls played college volleyball, and one of the greatest interviews I've ever witnessed is she's at Georgia Tech and said, I learned so much more on the volleyball court than I ever learned in any classroom, which I agree with. So I actually think it's a simple fix. And it's not simple unless we get antitrust protection, because the NCAA, when I was growing up in the profession, if you violated a rule, that was a problem. You'd lose your job. And that was made very clear. Throughout litigation and other issues, the NCAA has become, they don't have subpoena power, and every time they make a decision, they get litigated. And I get it. I mean, I witness it, and as a result, and we know this from some of the policies you put in place, rules without enforcement equals chaos. You don't need new rules. We got plenty of rules. Enforce them. So if we get antitrust, then you now will not get litigated. And I would eliminate, the only thing I dislike about the SCORE Act is that, and Coach Saban and I have visited about this, Mac Brown and I have visited about this, get rid of the collectives. That's cheating. When donors, so everyone understands what a collective is, donors put money in a pot, it's distributed to players through the coach and the general manager according to your talent level. That's not allowed. Not supposed to do that. That's called pay for play. So there's a revenue share that the universities get through their television contracts, and I know it goes up every year. That's their only financial, that's the only thing they're allowed to do for their student athletes. They can distribute that however they want. That's still pay for play. But any NIL conversations, which NIL, I think we all got to quit calling it that. It's not name and likeness. These players are getting paid millions of dollars in some of the stories I hear, and they're posting an Instagram for twice, and then they're getting paid $1.5 million. So the NIL, to me, NIL in its purest form is America. It's called capitalism. If you can make money on your name, you should have a right to do that. If you're a gymnast, a volleyball player, a swimmer, a football player, and a car dealership wants to work with you legally in the business world, do it. That's what NIL should be. That's not what it is. So you get rid of the collective, becomes an illegal entity. There's no such thing. That even to this day, that makes my skin curl when I hear a collective. Get the donors out of it. If a business owner wants to hire Jeremiah Smith and pay him a certain amount of money, he's certainly allowed to do that. That's called capitalism. But the universities cannot arrange that and set that up. The universities can simply make sure their kids go to school, make sure they graduate, treat them fairly, make sure the women's sports, the Title IX, I'm all in favor of all that, but they cannot get involved in the financial marketing of your players. That's let the market take care of itself. That's called the market. That's called capitalism. And the collective, I think if the collective goes away, college sports gets better immediately when you say that, if we have antitrust exemption.
You know, it's just sitting around and having watched college sports for so long with no problems, what this incompetent judge did to this game, knowing nothing at all about sports, about anything that we're talking about today, is a disgrace. And it's going to be a very hard thing to put back together. We'll get it done. But what this person did to college sports is a disgrace. I say it. And we've seen plenty of those type of opinions. I had one recently, and it's gross incompetence, is my opinion. And everybody suffers, including student athletes, including women. Women are really taking the brunt of it, as what you were saying before. It was so perfect for women. It was so great for women, the way it was, and now we have to come up with a whole new scheme to satisfy people. And there are going to be some unhappy people. And it was working before. A person that knew absolutely nothing about sports made a ruling, and she turned the whole thing upside down. And it's really a disgrace. You want to know the truth, a damn disgrace. But we are where we are, and we'll figure something out. And it won't be easy, and it won't be as good. In my opinion, it won't be as good as what you had before, including for the students that were getting great scholarships. And, you know, some went on to professional sports, and most of them didn't. But they got great education. They got it for free. And they had a lot of fun going to college, and they learned a lot. And they had great coaches, many of whom are around the table. They learned more from those coaches in many cases than they learned in the classroom. So, yeah, I appreciate what you say. Don't forget, when these donors or collectors or whatever you want to, all different names for different people, but as that money comes in, that's also money colleges aren't going to get. You know, they're giving money to players as opposed to giving maybe to the college to keep a lot of colleges going. And that's pretty tough also. But it's just a shame, because I got involved just recently, and I looked at what's happened to colleges and to college sports. And it is colleges, because the colleges are going to go out of business, many of these colleges. When I look at what a person that's a judge was able to do to destroy colleges and college sports that was so good, no problems, it's very, very sad. And in some ways, I'd like to just go exactly back to what we had and ram it through a court if we have to, because I'm not sure you're ever going to come up with a system that's comparable to what you had. And, you know, in life, you like to get better, not worse. You like to go forward, not backward. No matter what you come up with, you've gone backward, a long way backward in many cases.
Mr. President?
Yeah, please.
Mr. President?
Hi, Ted.
I want to thank you and echo the thanks for bringing this group together. And I want to in particular underscore the urgency that we have heard around this table. College sports is in absolute crisis. Every single week, we're seeing another program being canceled. We're seeing another women's team being canceled. We're seeing Olympic teams being canceled. And the current chaos, if Congress doesn't act, we are very quickly going to be in a world of 30 to 50 college football teams that are basically a mini NFL, and the Division II and Division III schools are going to be left behind, and the millions of college athletes who right now scholarships provide an avenue for them to get an education that they never would have had, that'll go away. And that would be an absolute travesty if we let that happen. I will say, several people around this table said this is a bipartisan issue and we have bipartisan consensus. I agree it should be a bipartisan issue. But it's worth speaking realistically. The challenge is simple. You asked about the SCORE Act. I think the SCORE Act has many good elements. I think it is a very good first step. But the challenge is for this to be passed into law and put on your desk, we need 60 votes in the Senate, which means we need at least 7 Senate Democrats. Right now, there are 0 Senate Democrats who support the SCORE Act. I've spent the last 3 years negotiating with Senate Democrats on this issue. And I will say for some time we have been, to use a football analogy, at the 2-yard line, but not able to push. And there are interest groups on the left, in particular trial lawyers and unions, that have resulted in Democrat senators that are actively lobbying against the SCORE Act and don't want to see legislation passed. And so my hope, there are a lot of people around this table who care desperately about college sports. My hope is that you speak out to Democrat senators and urge them, let's come together and solve this together. And I think part of a solution needs to be on the cost side, and I think part of the solution should be discussing and looking at the revenue side. I think both of those are important parts of a solution. There are a number of Senate Democrats who care about this but have not quite gotten to the point of getting to yes. That's the single biggest challenge, and I think the collective voices around this table adding to the urgency that if we wait another year, if we wait another 2 years, the programs in your state are going away and the students in your state are losing their scholarships, and it would be an absolute travesty if we let that happen.
Mr. President. Thank you, and I want to underscore that sense of urgency on the Senate side. I do think there's a growing number of senators that do understand that if we're here a year from now, we're in a much worse place. If we're here 2 years from now, college sports looks entirely different, and it would be a disaster. So I do think that growing sense of urgency is important. I appreciate you convening this. You have unique credibility on this, not just being president, but we've spent time at the Super Bowl, watching the Super Bowl, playing golf. You love sports. You have credibility on it. You care about it, and I think that authenticity matters for the leadership that we need. I do think that if we're serious about this, the antitrust exemption matters for the governance side, but I think the revenue side is inextricably linked to the success of this. If you are losing money on a football, and I'm from Missouri, we love, we're in the SEC. If you're losing money on your football program, you're not going to be able to subsidize the women's sports and the Olympic sports. So I do think that we can come together. I am hopeful and optimistic by the people who are represented in this room, and as we move forward, that we can find a solution. We have to. This is not just because we like watching sports on TV why this is important. There are lives that can be changed forever if we do the right thing. And I think that you've got the right people in the room, and I think you're the right guy to lead this effort, and we're here to support those efforts in the Senate.
Could I ask Charlie Baker? Charlie, do you think we could come back to a solution or get a solution that was as good as what we had before, or almost as good as what we had before, or maybe better? I don't think better, but maybe. Would you say that's possible, Charlie? You're in the position to be able to tell maybe better than anybody else.
Well, first of all, I appreciate the question because it's at the end of the day the one we all care about the most, which is can we create a system going forward that's better than the one we have now? And I think the focus people, the thing about the SCORE Act that everybody needs to remember here is it's a comprehensive piece of legislation that deals with a whole series of things that I think everybody would agree are a problem. The discussion, the place where the discussion gets a little more complicated is the issue about the cost and the revenue side and the implications of those two issues. And if I were to say to this group, where's the place to go, it would probably be there. And do I think if you could get that resolved, you could create something that most people would view as better than what we had before? I think you'd certainly be heading in that direction. The big thing we all have to remember here is that the way it was before, and I'm almost 70, so I remember those days quite well. Sports and media played a completely different role in our society than the one they play now, and the money piece in particular is got to be part of the conversation, and that's got to involve the student athletes. And your point, Mr. President, about coming up with a more structured way of dealing with that, I think is a good one. But that's got to be part of the dialogue for the same reason that the revenue piece has to be part of the dialogue as well.
So much money was paid to students in the form of scholarships. What was the exact number that you said, Charlie, before?
$4.1 billion last year.
$4.1 billion was paid to the students in the form of scholarships, and everybody was happy. Everybody was happy. And now you got yourself a mess. And I think you should just go back to where you have and let some judge tell you can't do it, and you appeal it up and you win at some point, because I think what you had was a great system, $4.1 billion. Everybody was happy. Now you have a thing that you're never going to, you have a jigsaw puzzle that's not going to be put back together, and colleges are going to go out of business. And I think you go back, and the players that got the $12 million, a 17-year-old quarterback that got $12 million, one got $14 million. I hear they're negotiating one at $18 million, they don't know if he's got an accurate arm, but he's got a strong arm, coach. Accuracy counts too. They have no idea. They're going to give him $18 million. And you know what? Those guys that already signed contracts, you know what? Call that the lotto. They hit the jackpot. Let them have their money. You can't do anything about it. But I'd like to see, and I tell you, I just don't think it's right that a judge is allowed, that knows nothing, is allowed to destroy college sports and colleges. And I'd like to see you go back to where you were, enhance it a little bit through some compensation, and let them take you to court, because no matter what you do, you're going to be sued. You can do 100, you could give everybody everything, and you're going to end up back in court, and you'll probably have a judge that doesn't know a damn thing, and it's a mess. It's a mess. And I don't know whether or not that decision was appealed. Was that decision ever appealed? Does anyone know? Because I heard it was not appealed.
I believe the House settlement is being litigated now because it violates.
No, but was it appealed, the decision?
The House settlement, I think.
The original decision by the judge from California, was that appealed?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah, the answer is no. It was settled because it was, I think, the third case.
Why didn't somebody appeal it?
The prior case, which is Alston versus the NCAA, was appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court found 9-0 against the college position to defend the old system. So that's, I think the answer is the antitrust piece is the inherent problem in trying to create caps and limits. That's it.
So the Supreme Court was responsible for this?
I'm not the one who's going to say that. I'm not bold enough to say that, but I'll at least acknowledge the problem.
9-0. 9-0.
Was the Supreme Court responsible for this?
9-0, and Kavanaugh supported.
It's a shame. It's a shame. Yes, sir, please.
Mr. President, thank you for bringing this esteemed group together. I have a bit of a unique perspective because for most of my career I was in professional sports. I became the commissioner 3.5 years ago. I found a system that quickly was defined by unlimited free agency and no salary cap, in complete chaos. I am, and representing the Big 12, we are very much in favor of the SCORE Act. I like to say it's progress over perfection. And it provides, no different than what Commissioner Phillips said, the core principles of what we need to move this thing forward. One thing that we didn't discuss so far today was athlete protection rights, which is obviously part of the SCORE Act. And there's a component there about regulating sports agents that we need to really look at. Now, I know we have some agents in the room, and I have a lot of respect for that industry. But right now, they are taking full advantage of our student athletes. Usually in the NBA or the NFL, it's a 3 to 4, maybe 5% commission. In some cases, they're charging over 20. We talked about the portal. Most agents are pushing our student athletes into the portal, and the recent numbers show that over 40% don't even find a home once they get into the portal. And because they're being pushed into the portal, and Mr. Sankey said it earlier, they're losing credits towards their degrees. So we have a problem on our hands, obviously, and I don't believe in perfection. I do believe in progress, and I think the SCORE Act is a great first step for us to move forward. And on behalf of the Big 12 Conference, we are all in favor of it, and we'd like to see a sense of urgency. We need something done soon, because if not, our university is going to suffer, our student athletes will suffer, and we need help. So we appreciate you bringing us together today.
Well, it's an honor to do it. I just hate to see what you're going through. I hate to see what's happening to our country, essentially, because this is our country. This is the youth of our country, and it's a terrible thing that's happening because, these crazy payments that are being made colleges are not going to be able to help themselves. Just like the NFL owners would not be able to help themselves if they didn't have a cap. But you have a much bigger problem than a cap. And you have a complexity problem. And you have a problem where women are being thrown out of sports, like at levels never seen before. And you're going to have other things that come up that nobody's even thinking about right now. And you're not going to be able to solve these problems. You're just not going to be able to solve these problems. Ted said something before that the Democrats, I think Eric was alluding to it, but you have a lot of Democrats in the Senate that I hear are opposed to almost anything. So if you do, and I have to deal with these people all the time, okay? You saw them the other night. They wouldn't stand up for a soldier that was a great hero and got the Congressional Medal of Honor. They sat there. They wouldn't stand up. They wouldn't even smile. They wouldn't clap. For a woman that lost her daughter whose throat was slashed, they wouldn't stand up. They sat and they didn't stand up. They didn't do anything. And we have to deal with these people. But, Ted, you said that there are 7 Democrats that will not vote yes. Eric, you know the situation better than almost anybody in the room, except maybe me. I have to deal with it even more than you. But, if you've got all these hardline Democrats that want to see everything fail, it's a problem. You know for a fact these people would vote no?
What we need at least 7 who will get to yes, because that's how we get to 60.
Right.
Right now, the SCORE Act has 0.
Yeah.
So I'm glad
I'm
the House
not
is moving it,
surprised.
and they've got some Democrats in the House. That's beneficial, and I think when the House passes it, that momentum is helpful. And there are a number of Senate Democrats. I've spent literally thousands of hours negotiating with my Democrat colleagues, and there are a number who want to address it, but it is their political leadership that is telling them to stop. And so what has got to happen is the folks in each of the states need to say to your elected Democrats, if you don't act, we're going to lose what is so extraordinary about college sports. And it needs to be something that is in the middle that's a compromise.
Ted, you've already lost it. You've already lost it. Colleges are losing $400-500 million. And they haven't even started yet. So you've already lost it in the true sense. And you've lost something else. It's like, it's ugly what's happened to sports in college. Before it was beautiful. It was a beautiful thing. And now it's very ugly. It's become very ugly.
And I think you're right. You're going to have people that will never vote for anything, no matter what you agree. You could agree to everything that's perfect, and they will never vote. And I'm not doing this I'm doing this as a practical person. No matter what you agree to, you have people in the Senate and in the House that will never vote for it, even if it's good for our country, even if it's great for the player, great for the college, and great for our country. And they will still vote no. Because they're cuckoo. They've got problems. Maybe it's problems at home, Cody, but they have problems. So that gives us problems. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down with some of the people in this room, like Urban, like Coach, a very fine coach, Nick, who won a lot. He won a lot. How many? 6 national championships? You could have done better. You had a couple of games. Did you win 7? What did you, 6?
7.
7. All right, so I think he qualifies, right? But I'd like to sit down with some of the very talented people in this room, and we'll pick them out. If you'd like to volunteer. And I'd like to sign an executive order that I'll write myself based on common sense, and it'll be something that people will be sort of happy about. Some will be sort of happy, others will be sort of happy, and maybe that's a good thing. There'll be a few people that won't like anything, but I'd like to write an executive order based on some of the very great talent in this room, and we will be sued, and we'll go before a court, and maybe we'll have a judge that's realistic, reasonable, and wants to do a favor for the country, because that's the only way this is going to be solved. So I'm going to sit down, and I'm going to write an executive order based on many of the statements made today, many of the statements I've been hearing over the last year about what a disaster this is for colleges, for the players, for the families, ruining everything. And we're going to do a very well thought out executive order. A lot of you are going to be involved in that. All of you, anybody that would like to, just let me know. And that'll be placed before the courts, and hopefully a judge who's a real judge, a compassionate judge, and a judge with common sense will get it approved. And maybe it won't, and maybe it won't hold up. Maybe they'll say you can't do an executive order, in which case you say, welcome to the court system of this country, which has gone totally out of control, and maybe not. But that's the only way you're going to get this done. So I'm going to write an executive order, and the executive order is going to be based on great common sense, and it's going to let colleges survive and players survive and let a lot of people be very, very happy. And let's see if we can get it through the court system, which we might not be able to do, in which case I guess we'll have to meet again, and we'll probably be through the same system. Look, if this doesn't work, colleges are going to be destroyed. Women's sports are going to be destroyed first, before anything, before anybody, before anything. Women's sports are already being cut in every college. The first thing they're cutting, which is very unfair, is women's sports. And then they're cutting lesser sports. Sports that are very good sports, great sports, are being cut. And you're going to be left with football, and the football is going to lose so much money that the colleges are all going to go bankrupt, all because of a bad number of decisions made by courts, including, I guess, the Supreme Court. If you say it was a bad decision in the Supreme Court, I think the Supreme Court ought to be ashamed of itself for a lot of reasons, okay? A lot of reasons. I got to live with these people, and I say this, and they'll only vote bad, and I couldn't care less at this point. They have hurt this country so badly because they haven't had the guts to do what's right. So, and I can tell you about other things too, not just this. So we're going to do an executive order, and I think it's going to be an executive order that the people in this room and the students and the colleges will be proud of. Whether or not it holds up in court, I can't tell you that. But you're not going to get it through the Senate. And you're probably not going to get anything through the House because you have a bunch of lunatics that you have to deal with, Mike, and better you than me. Go ahead.
Well, I applaud the effort for an executive order, and I think everybody around the table is grateful for that. Might I suggest, Mr. President, that while you're using the Article 2 authority, that we still work in the lane of Article 1. The playbook has to be wider than that, I think. And so what I would suggest, and humbly before everyone here, is that we take, I think almost everyone around the table we've heard today believes that at least the SCORE Act is a base to work from. Can we still continue to try to work through that? We do have some Democrat support, and as was said, we've got some fine points to get to.
Would love to work with you on it.
Okay, and what I think is, and what I was hopeful for, is that the leaders around this table, representing such a broad array of interests and groups around the country and both parties, that the influence, collective influence of I hate the word collective, Coach Meyer, I'm sorry, I keep saying but the influence of all the people around this table could help us get some of those critical, Democrat votes in the Senate. And I don't think we should or could abandon that effort. We try it. I'm an optimist.
I think you go both ways.
Yes.
Let me do an executive order. You go ahead and play games with these people.
Okay.
Okay?
We'll give it the quarterback effort. How
Give
about
it a
that?
shot.
Okay.
And maybe the fact that we do the one helps you get the votes in the other. Okay?
Right.
Does that sound okay, Randy?
Yeah, I think so, and I think at the end of the day, Mr. President, as you've heard here, we need an antitrust exemption, and the only people who can do it are the Congress, and I heard from all the senators and the representatives, and I agree the SCORE Act is a start, but with your leadership, I really do believe we can move the ball. I have ideas. Brilliant people here have ideas where we can add on it. And based on my conversations with Democrats, I think they want to do this. I think the Congresswoman said that, and I think that there's a way to do this. And your executive order, again, showing leadership, stepping out, is good, but I think we go on both
Don't
paths.
forget, the executive order can then be put before Congress, and Congress can vote on it, change it a little bit, vote on it. But I'm looking to do it straight and let Congress go a different path. And, you may get a judge that understands what's happening, and you may get some very good opinions coming out of a very smart judge who will be beloved all over our country, as opposed to hated and disrespected. So that's it. So, Randy, could I ask you to do the following? Either a sampling of it or get everybody in some form, come up with a proposal, play with the SCORE Act or do something different than the SCORE Act, but maybe you use the SCORE Act as a base. I separately will get some of the people in this room, and we're going to do a really good executive order. And maybe Jim will put that executive order in front of the Senate and the House. And who knows, maybe we get a vote, and maybe we don't. But I'm talking about not even going before the Senate and the House, just having an executive order where we'll be sued and we'll go before the courts, and here we go again. But I think at the same time, you go down a separate track. Is that all right? Okay? Is that okay? Good. Other than that, we've had a great time.
Can I?
The press will take one or two questions, please.
Thank you, President Trump. It sounds like the Russians are helping Iran target and attack Americans now.
That's an easy problem compared to what we're doing here. I mean, but can I be honest? It's just, I have a lot of respect for you. You've always been very nice to me. What a stupid question that is to be asking at this time. We're talking about something else. Can we keep this maybe a little bit? Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. My question is for eligibility. As you know, my son, Joe, is a high-level D1 athlete, third-year relief pitcher, University of Maryland.
How would I know that? He said, as you know, I didn't even know who the guy is. That's all right.
Well, the eligibility thing
As you know.
is a disaster in the NCAA. You have division, the second division, D2, is passing a blanket 5-year eligibility without medical, without redshirt, just a 5-year eligibility. That can be solved in D1 with the commissioners in this room right now. Why don't we solve that?
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to know the same thing. You know why you're not going to solve it? Because we've had some very, very bad, incompetent decisions. Things that were routine before, that were solved long before. Now you're into a brand new system. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Mr. President. Thank you. Could you tell us what went into your decision to replace Secretary Noem with Senator Markwayne Mullin?
Is it possible to stay on this subject just for once? You know, just for once. Boy, oh boy. Anybody have any questions on this subject?
Thank you, Mr. President. What is your timeline for either the executive order that you just mentioned or the legislation that the members
I
of
will
Congress
have an
mentioned?
executive order within 1 week.
Well,
And
would
it'll
it
be
take
very,
effect before
it'll
the
be
fall
very
semester for colleges and
all
universities?
encompassing. And we're going to put it forward, and we're going to get sued, and we're going to see how it does. Okay? But I'll have an executive order which will solve every problem in this room, every conceivable problem, within 1 week. And we'll put it forward. We will get sued. That's the only thing I know for sure in life. And we'll see how we do in the court system.
Would it take effect, sir?
But the
before
courts have destroyed. The courts.
Yes, sir.
Think about it. The courts, a bad court system has destroyed college sports and colleges in this country and a lot of lives.
Mr. President,
Yeah, please.
Mr. President, how will your executive order be different from the one that you released in July?
You mean than the SCORE Act? Well, it'd be a lot different because I don't necessarily agree with the SCORE Act. I don't know it as well as some people in this room, but I disagree with some of the things in the SCORE Act.
No, the executive order you released in July, how will this one that you're writing this week be different?
It'll be more comprehensive. That was put out as a test, as a feeler. This will be much more comprehensive because we've all learned a lot in the last pretty long period of time, 6 months or so period of time. I think we could do a very good document. I think we could do a document that works from a common sense standpoint. Whether or not it's going to hold up in court, who knows? Honestly, it will depend on the judge. Maybe we'll get a wise judge. There are wise judges, too. We got some very brilliant, wise judges. Maybe we'll get lucky.
Why aren't there any student athletes in the room?
Why aren't there any student athletes in the room? Do you want to answer that question, Randy?
We've made it clear, and I thought I said it before, that we have agents here. There are a lot of student-athlete groups. There's a limited room here, and after this meeting, we intend to talk to all of the interested student-athlete groups to get their input, because this can't be done without them. But at the end of the day, we had to kick this off and start it. This is the beginning. This isn't the end. I've talked to a lot of people who represent student athletes, and there are certain interest groups that I'm sure would have liked to be here, but they'll have their opportunity.
They're very well represented. You know why? Because people like Nick Saban and Urban Myers and some of the people, all the people that I know in the room, and the people probably that I don't know, they all care very much about the student athlete, more so than they care about themselves. So I think they're really here in that sense. They're represented very well. Peter, I'll give you one more chance because that was a bad question you asked before. Go ahead.
We've already got a lot of sound bites
leave him in the
about the
lurch like
sports. Can I ask one off topic?
On topic.
On topic. Okay.
Which is unusual for you. Go ahead.
Thank you. What is motivating you to do this right now? Because there is a lot of other stuff going on in the world.
Right. That's right. There's a lot. We're doing by the way, in Iran, we're doing very well. Somebody said, how would you score it from 0 to 10? I said, I'd give it a 12 to a 15. Their army is gone. They're just about, look, their navy is gone. Their communications are gone. Their leaders are gone. 2 sets of their leaders are gone. They're down to their 3rd set. Their air force is wiped out entirely. Think of it. They have 32 ships. All 32 are at the bottom of the ocean. Other than that, they're doing very well, Coach. Very well. We're doing, our military is doing phenomenally. That's the big thing for this week. We seem to have a new thing every week, but the situation with a very bad and very sick group of leaders who were killing a lot of people. A lot of our people were being killed. They were being maimed. They were being destroyed with their bombs all over the place, planted in roads, and we call them the roadside bombs, walking around without legs, without arms, face blasted, killed many, many people. And we had a choice. We could take it and go on like that for years or do something about it. And we did something about it. And people are very impressed with our military, and they admire our military with what happened in Venezuela and what's happening now, what's happened with the B-2 bombers before this, where they took out the nuclear capability or potential of Iran. I think we're right now we're a country that's more respected than we've ever been respected before. I saw what was happening with college sports, and it doesn't sound very important compared to what's happening in Iran and other places, but it is very important to me. And if I can get it done, I'll get it done. Through a bad system, it's a bad system. Through a bad legal system, you want to know the truth, we have a situation that is almost unsolvable. And we'll see if we can solve it. And, you know, Peter, the fact is we're talking about colleges that are going to go out of business by many, many colleges are going to be out of business. This isn't just about student athletes. This is about our whole educational system is going to go out of business because of this. So I understand what you're saying in terms of the level of importance, but to me this is very important. Very, very important. Thank you. Okay, thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
All right, so you've been watching that live event there at the East Room of the White House. It sounds like we need to pass the SCORE Act and the Save America Act in our country. The president participating in a Saving College Sports Roundtable in the East Room of the White House as sports leaders from across the nation discuss the SCORE Act. Of course, colleges, universities, former coaches represented. President Trump saying, in life, you want to go forward, you don't want to go backward, referring to the old system of college sports scholarships versus the current NIL system. The commander-in-chief, as you may have seen there, saying he'll write an executive order to help colleges and universities across the country, and we'll see how it plays out in the courts, no pun intended. But let's close our broadcast with how we started our broadcast earlier today, with a quote from President John Adams. "You will never know how much it has cost my generation to preserve your freedom. I hope you will make a good use of it." Again, words from our second president of the United States, John Adams, and as many have agreed online, a good use of our time is getting that Save America Act passed as well. It's something President Trump has been saying we have to do, as the U.S. Senate will hopefully vote on that measure sooner than later. For all of us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, I'm Matthew Alvarez. Have a great night.